And we're back, and we're live, and it's time for our daily, well, the weekly joke, isn't it?
Go on then. Have you got a joke?
Okay. Oh yeah, I got a joke for you. Here goes. Right. It's one of those jokes that take part in a pub or a bar, right? So the past, the present, and the future walk into a bar.
Really?
Yeah, it was tense. It was tense. Oh dear.
Past tense.
I wasted here.
That was actually compared to your other jokes. That was quite good.
Yes, quite clean. That was now. We're talking about the future today. That's why I said it. Back to the Future. sort of a theme, vaguely a theme for today, something to anchor the conversation on. Back to the Future was a brilliant film, wasn't it?
It was.
Wasn't
Let's
that
have a
good
quick look
film?
at the present and see who's here.
Yeah, I see the people who are present as a gift. Present, yeah. Isn't there
You're
some
on
sort-
fire. You're,
There's,
mate,
yes, I'm on.
You're on
form
fire.
tonight. Yeah, I know.
yeah, I've got to sort that
Sadly,
chair out there.
sadly.
That chair looks huge. Have you, is your chair twice the size
I
of mine?
inflated it to make
okay.
it. Yes,
That's what it is.
I don't know. It does. It feels very comfortable. I'm
Yeah.
very relaxed.
They're not bad. They're not bad.
So yes, one of the interesting things about we talked about time travel, but we're not really talking about time travel. It's about things in the past and whether they were better or whether the future can be better. But the film Back to the Future it's a film in the past, in the 80s, wasn't it?
1985.
But it was really good.
It was.
Yeah.
Did you like this? Did you like the other ones?
I didn't like them as much. I did like them though. I thought they worked together as a trilogy. I've watched them all in one go once.
Have you
time.
binged on Back to the Future?
I have. I think they're really good.
You watched all of them.
Yeah. Whenever there was a Donald Trump, not look-alike, what they call pastiche. No, one of the guys was supposed to be based on Donald Trump, wasn't it? The future. If you know the film, it's you do. I just wonder whether people watching do. The future version of Biff.
Yes. Yeah, Trump Towers.
Yeah. Trump Towers, but it was Biff Towers.
Do you know what? See,
He even had the hair, the sort of comb over.
yeah, absolutely. Until you just said it then.
Yeah, it's
How crazy is that?
yeah,
Trump
but I think
Towers.
it's deliberate. Yeah.
Biff Towers.
So what they missed out of is him becoming president of the United States and mishandling a pandemic. Apart from that, it was pretty good.
Well, yeah.
Bit of politics. Who used to say that? Ben Elton. I remember that's what he
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Ben Elton.
Ben
Bit of
Elton.
politics, bit of politics. I ate
Yeah.
Thatcher. That's what he used to. That was him, not me, obviously.
Yeah.
I love Thatcher. We're big fans of Thatcher, aren't we, on the show?
Are we?
I don't know really. And all of the politicians, obviously, we love them.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yes, they're all doing a marvelous,
We love them.
job.
We want to marry them and have their babies, right?
Hasn't the what is it, the guy who's, not talking about politics, but
Okay.
yeah, we'll talk about politics just for a minute. Hasn't the guy who is kind of running the schools, getting them all back up to speed, just resigned?
He resigned. Yes,
Because
I
they
saw that
reckon-
he resigned. Why did he resign?
Well, they reckon they needed 13 billion. So he just put in can we have 15 billion then? Like, hang on, that's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they said you can have 1.8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, and he said,
So he resigned on principle.
yeah, he did it on the fact there's not enough money.
Fair enough.
But what they offered him was the difference between what they actually needed and what he put in for. You kind of think, yeah, I'll just put in a bit of fat. What, a bit of fat? 1.8 billion? That's a lot of fat, isn't it? Anyway, so yeah, it's interesting how he's resigned.
Yes. Well,
But,
I guess if they're not, if he thought he needed it, I guess he had to.
Well-
Or maybe he's thinking, in politics, there's a strategy, isn't there? If you can get out on what seems like a point of principle, you've got a better chance at a leadership bid later.
Absolutely, because resignation stands for nothing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, I'm resigning, and then the media go, oh, he's resigned.
Yes.
Oh my word!
Yeah.
Boris Johnson resigned at one point, didn't he?
And
And now he's like Prime Minister.
Oh yeah, he did. Well, as Foreign Secretary, yes.
yeah, absolutely. Right, should we have a look? Oh, Trevor's here.
Oh, that's all right. Then we could start.
Should we have a little look? Let's
I
have a
wanted to see. Yeah, it's Back to the Future, isn't it? Have we got the clip?
Yeah, all right.
It's a clip. It's a teaser trailer from '85, I think, from when it first came out.
All right, let's give this a whirl.
So really short.
Shall I full screen? I think I'll full screen it.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
far are you going?
About 30 years.
For more, go to firebrand.com.
Let's get back.
Right.
Yeah, so they did teaser trailers
I was
properly
just,
in
I was
those
just a
days.
bit,
I
as
liked
soon as
it.
Huey Lewis and the news came on, I thought,
Yes, get out of there.
Yeah, quick. Yeah.
But yeah-
I think we can have that. I can have
Yeah,
that.
well, I think the music. Yeah, there could be problems with copyright, but that wasn't even it wasn't a trailer like taking a bit of the movie. That
No.
was a bit done just to tease it. So that was
Ju-
good. I like that.
So, anyway, has everyone here seen Back to the Future?
Brilliant film.
Bet you Trevor has.
Yeah, I think one of the features of the film is they recognise certain things are cool. And they were cool as I like skateboarding. Skateboarding is hellishly difficult, and you always fall off. That's my experience. But it looks cool if people can do it. So they got that. They got the skateboarding,
And what's skateboarding based on?
trolleys,
No. Surfing.
surfing. Right, okay.
Yeah, it came
Oh
from...
no, it's based on a trolley because he takes a trolley and makes it into a skateboard in the film. I get they do look. Yes, they look like you're right. They look like surfers, don't they? When
Well, that was the idea.
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
is it so?
Skateboarding came, it's land surfing.
Now let's compare. No, okay. Well, let's compare that. Say so. Just generally, if you look at someone on a skateboard and they're doing it well, obviously, I've got an electric skateboard, but I can look like I'm doing it well as long as I've got a big, wide area. I tried it once on a pavement, and almost broke my hand off bashing into a bus stop. Yes, you would have thought it'd be easy to miss, but on the prom I could do it, but the normal skateboard you can't control it. Like with electric skateboard, you can go faster, slower. It's even got a brake.
Yeah.
Control with the control in your hand like this. But skateboarding, you can look cool, but if you have one of those current contraptions, the electric scooters, not like a
There's a
moped
load of
scooter.
them. There's a load of those in Liverpool.
Yeah, well, I've seen them all around here as well. But yes, there are
Have
loads
you?
around. Yeah, I've seen people with them
think-
on the prom.
Yeah, I think people just sort of like rock up to one, get on it, and go off somewhere, and then just leave it wherever they've gone to. So how do these things get charged?
I don't know. I think that is what you're meant to do in Liverpool. Around the corner from where my kids go to school, there was a road with lots of them sort of scattered around.
right.
Yeah. But what I was thinking, so skateboarder, if I could just act it, you're like this. But if you go fast, they put their hands behind the back and they're like this. They're looking cool. But on a scooter, you're sort of
Yeah,
like this.
especially the lips.
The lips are, even if your lips aren't like that, they should be. You look like that's what your expression would be. Yeah,
Okay.
you can't look cool. You see, they're not.
can't
They're
look cool.
just inherently not cool. Now, and also, this is what I was building up to. Some cars are cool, whether
they?
they're any good or not. Some cars are cool. So now I owned. Now I think these cars are cool. Let's just see what you think of this. I had two of these cars because one was a write-off, so I bought another one. A Mercedes 190E, which is the old small Mercedes from
No.
the up to the 80s. It sort of looks like a car, like a kid would draw a car. Bonnet, roof,
Yeah.
and then like that. So a standard-looking car.
You mean basically how I draw a car now?
Yeah, but cars had already started to change shape, but they remained like that even into the early 90s. They started making them, but they were the cars when the engines were just by Mercedes were all brilliantly made, and the engines are still going today. You see quite a few people with these cars, but they were made to be road racing cars, and they're sort of quite low, and they're sort of understated. They look cool, I think. Not look cool. They are cool. There's a few around in Wallasey, but other cars are cool because they're over the top, just like the DeLorean in Back to the Future.
Should have a look.
Yeah, this is. You've got to say, I would like one of the. I looked into buying one. At the same time, I was looking at buying more sensible Mercedes. Look at that! It's got the gull wings. It's got a time machine in it. What more can you want?
Flux capacitor.
Yeah, no, you can buy. I saw one on sale. It was on eBay, and presumably elsewhere as well. it was not the actual one like this, but it was made to look like the DeLorean from the film. It was for sale, far too expensive. But look at that. I mean, they weren't particularly fast. The ride wasn't particularly good.
I thought they kept breaking down.
And they kept breaking down, but still cool. That's why. What do you think in the chat? Are you into whether a car's cool or not? I would say that, for example, the car I've got now is Alfa Romeo. They're renowned for their electrics going wrong, and has got a bit wrong, but they look cool.
Italians.
They,
Italian
they
cars.
are. They are. Not they look cool.
See,
they
I only
are
buy,
cool.
Listen, I only buy.
Renault 5.
Yeah.
There you are. Renault 5. You see.
So just to
Isn't-
quickly interrupt,
Is.
Trevor and
I'll say
Kate.
what I think in a minute.
If you're still just here, don't worry. That's no problem. Thanks for trying to tune in anyway. That's fine.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. They're trying to do it in Scotland
Yeah.
on data. So
Yeah.
I
Great.
love
Yeah.
the commitment. So
Yeah.
Catch up
Yeah.
Saturday when you're back.
Yeah,
Enjoy the rest of your
If you
holiday.
can join in, do. But we don't
Yeah,
not trying to
no
get
worries.
rid of you. But that's great that you can make it at the start. Now the old Renault 5s I think are quite cool because they're so simple. I don't know how old your car is, but
The old Renault 5s, with the.
that is the old one with the
Yeah.
gear stick in the dashboard. Yes.
See, my brother had two
Yeah.
of those. He had two of those. One was banana yellow, and it's called Ricard.
Okay.
And I think, if I'm right, it could be the Citroen 2CV that if you slapped it in reverse, put a full lock on, and just floored it, it would topple over. Is that the Renault 5 or the Citroen 2CV? Don't know.
I don't know about that. I mean, it certainly would have happened with a Reliant Robin
Well, yeah.
three wheeler.
Yeah. But my view, there's only
What do you
two.
think?
There's
What do you
only
think?
two cars or two manufacturers of cars.
So
that
you're
I
you're
would
going
look at.
against the DeLorean, not DeLorean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine is blue and called Ruby.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Blue and called
absolutely.
Ruby.
Yeah, it's blue. If you call it sapphire,
Yes.
I'm just thinking sapphire and steel now.
Yeah. Classic series.
Did you instantly think that when I said it as well?
I did. Yes.
No way,
Sapphire
right.
and Steel, very good series. Well, it wasn't a good series. It was just an over the top sci-fi.
In fact, to be honest, I don't remember it that much. To be fair, all I was going to say is there's only two places.
he was better in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Yeah.
Ruby Renault. Oh, she's right.
I see. Got it.
See, Ruby Renault.
Now I understand it. Yes.
Or people who pronounce it incorrectly, Ruby Renault.
Yes. Who would do that?
I don't know. Look, there's only two places I buy cars from. Germany or Japan.
Right. Yes. Very cool cars from Japan.
No, it's just I wouldn't buy a car from anywhere else in the world unless it was Japanese or German.
Manufacturing quality. That's what you're thinking.
Yes.
Reliability. No, but there are some very cool cars from Japan. There's their sports cars have always been renowned to be really good, and there's a little there's the what is it called, the MX-5, who makes that?
That's Mazda.
Mazda, and there
My
is
brother's strangely enough, my brother's had three of them. So look at that, he's had two Renault 5s and three MX-5s.
and there's the Toyota sports car.
MR2?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
Yeah,
MR2.
it's called, I had the MR2, the new shape.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I had that. And in France it's called the MR. Because otherwise it sounds like MR2, which sounds like
Armada.
merde.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so
Well, you're
they
gonna
just
die
call
on
it the
yeah.
MR.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, yes,
Mid-range, 'cause the engine's in the
Japanese have some good cars, and there are the classic sports cars. And in Germany, you've got Porsche, haven't you? Famous for designing things for the Nazis. That's what he did.
No,
I mean, Ferdinand, the man, not Ferdinand, whatever.
I thought it was
what's his name?
Mercedes that did all the Nazi stuff. We'd have to talk about that.
What? Not.
Yeah.
You look on
When you
YouTube.
talk about cars,
YouTube, I don't know about Twitch, but YouTube, very sensitive. But I think if you criticise the Nazis, I think that's fine.
oh, okay.
I think they're generally against
awful.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, but they apart from they always say that the trains ran on time and the roads were good. Well, I understand that Porsche designed the VW Beetle. I think that's right, the original.
Really?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Oh, okay.
And so he was involved with and a few tanks as well. But
Well, no, Mercedes were.
but I did. What else could he do? I mean, you could say, well, he could have just said no. So I understand his decision.
Yeah.
But yes, that gradual, the gradual evolution of that car, the Porsche 911, is sort of it remains a classic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Classic cars.
Actually,
classic cars,
where is it? Where the police are all their police cars are Porsche 911?
I'd heard that, but I can't remember where. That's a good idea. They should bring.
Is it
that
Sweden? Is it in Scandinavia?
I don't know. I can't remember. I just remember it being said.
Let me
Look it
look.
up.
Let me look.
Get our research department on it. Yeah. So I mean, I like Mercedes, so the older Mercedes cars, and but Mercedes are seen as slightly posh in this country, but they're often taxis in other countries. So as I
Austrian.
understand. Austria, they have 911.
Austria. Porsche 911 is the Austrian police car.
So yeah, because you've got to be able to catch the
Crims.
crims. That's what I say.
Right, should we go back to what we were doing?
No,
we were talking DeLorean. Are you done with the DeLorean?
Oh, no, there's a little bit of history because no. See,
Well, hang on. Was there anything else on the rest of that? Yeah, hang on. Let's go back to that because that's quite cool.
there's something to do with DeLorean. Yes, yes.
Out of time.
Yes, it talks about best known for, where does it say, the 1981 DeLorean DMC-12 time machine from Back to the Future is the 29th car to join the National Historical Vehicle Register run by Haggerty Drivers Foundation in collaboration with the United States Department of the Interior. The aim of the register is to recognise and document historically significant vehicles. Yeah, you see. The DeLorean-based time machine certainly has our approval. Does mine too. Brilliant car.
But having, as the only thing that the DeLorean's famous for is being in Back to the Future.
Well, they were famous at the time for being it's going to be the salvation of industry in Northern Ireland.
What?
Oh, well, read down the next paragraph. You see. Yeah, you see, maybe I'm just slightly older than you. That this was all in the news when I was young. How DeLorean. I've forgotten his first name.
Things went
the man.
No, wait. Things went downhill from there. Production problems at DeLorean's Northern Ireland factory.
That's
along
where they
with
were made,
accusations of shady business practices.
Yeah, he was accused of drug
Charges
dealing.
of drug trafficking resulting from an FBI sting operation against DeLorean.
Yeah.
He was later acquitted.
Yeah, he was. There was something dodgy with it. He needed to get the money. It was, he was making. He did a great car, as it was really cool. But he didn't have big business behind him or anything. He just needed the money. So I think maybe he dealt with some dodgy people. That's what I think happened. That's my theory. I'm not sure that he did. Yeah, then and it closed, and it's all a bit of a disaster. But
so they only made 8,500 of them then.
Yeah, but there's still some around. So, on the YouTube, there's these videos very popular of children giving cars to their dad. So when their dad's old, like I am.
Yeah.
They remember what car he wanted when they were young, and they think, "Oh, now I'm older, I can save up and buy it." So I keep mentioning DeLoreans to my children. So just
really,
yeah. It would mean
would
mean so much to me.
Is that what you want? Would you want a DeLorean?
Oh yeah.
See, I think I'd like. Let me just check.
Well, you see, it'd be very expensive because I want a fully functional one. Which would mean which would be tricky. Let's put it that way.
No, it's not that. There's a Porsche I like, and I can't remember what it is.
Well, I'd also like a 1970s Rolls Royce, a Silver Shadow Rolls Royce. I quite like those. They're cool. Oh no, the Bentley, what's it called? The well, anyway, the 1970s Bentley R. I think it's just called an R. I think it just has the letter. They're cool, and they're pretty quick.
Bentley
R. See if I've remembered right.
Bentley R type.
Because I haven't thought. Yeah. Well, I'm talking not R type. Well, I'm talking about slightly more recent than that. Although I do like those as well.
What's an R type fastback?
I think well, the fastback means the sloping back.
No, I just wanted to get an image of it.
Bentley R. Put Bentley R Turbo. You'd probably come up with it.
Really?
Yeah. That's the one. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I like those. So failing a DeLorean, Bentley R Turbo from the 80s, lovely.
See, I'll tell you what I like. I like the Porsche that Eddie Murphy's got out of 48 Hours.
I've seen that film, but I can't remember the Porsche.
And I can't remember what it is either, because it's one of those. Apparently, it's slow and rubbish and rotted and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and the
but
other thing is,
so is the
other
DeLorean, but that's
yes, I want
it
one.
can still be cool.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big car person, to be fair, but also the same.
Only of them I wouldn't actually spend money
The
on.
same car is used by Christopher Lambert. Yeah, in
In
go on,
what?
Highlander.
Oh right, yes, yeah, that's also a good movie. I don't know if people in the comments, I don't know if people are live in the chat. We've got not got our usual crowd tonight, but people do watch on playback. So we do look at the comments. Comment
Have you
below.
ever once looked at the comments after
Yeah,
you've done a show?
every time.
Have you? Can you even get to any of the channels?
So, yeah, no, actually, I never read them.
No,
I
he's
expect
lying. He's lying.
But my staff do read them,
Yeah,
and they comment. They
Yeah.
comment every time there is one.
absolutely. Yeah, I get all the things. Right. So let's move on to the next. You've got another thing on DeLorean. Let's
Well,
just go to
this was the history that I was talking about. The short, chaotic history of DeLorean. Look at that! Look at that! That's what it looks like. What a cool car! Look at that! Imagine having
the
that.
headlights aren't even square.
They're a little bit. They're a little bit off.
a bit drunk.
Look, yes. Well, look, they had other things to pay attention to in Northern Ireland at the time.
I think that's incredible. I didn't even realise production was in Ireland.
Yeah, it was. Well, you see, at that time, it was a famous news story, and the people really did think that it was going against the grain to have a company setting up big factory in Northern Ireland. So it was big news at the time. Shaped like look at that in the middle,
Where?
shaped like a flying wedge.
Where are you looking?
I can't. It doesn't matter. I'll go back. Well,
Lower?
we'll come to it.
There, got
Yeah,
it, got it.
shaped like a flying wedge. The DeLorean appears to exceed 55 mile, the 55 mile per hour speed limit while standing still.
Does it?
It looks cool.
It does look fast.
Yes, it isn't, but it looks it. That's the point. Yes, you can get 22 miles per gallon.
Outstanding.
Entry to its luxury appointed interior is through the gull wing door. Luxury appointed, yes. The gull wing doors that tilt up instead of swinging out. Yes, wonderful, lovely.
Nice. Okay. I think we've done a DeLorean.
Well, the
Let's move on.
DeLorean. Let's just admit that it is a really cool car. We can just move on.
Yeah. Well, it's iconic.
The problem is
It's iconic.
if
Yes.
you turned it on its, you took a corner too quickly and turned it on its roof, you wouldn't be able to get out because the wings, the doors swing up. And in fact, new Mercedes that have the gull wings have little explosive devices in the hinges.
Really?
Yeah, so that if that were to happen, you press a button and I think it all happens automatically.
And it flips the car back on its.
I don't know that it flips it. It just opens the door for you.
Ejects the doors.
Yeah, takes the bolts off the door. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Interesting.
yeah, because Mercedes don't want to have stories of people being burnt alive in their cars upside down, do they?
I don't think any car manufacturer.
No,
does.
they really don't want that. But gull wing doors are cool, so I think we're going to keep being made. Back to the Future. I mean, that's in fact the idea of the gull wing doors is and the other thing that's cool. Just before we leave cars, is see if you agree with this one. This is totally impractical, but it looks cool. Flip up headlights.
Yeah. And that
Totally pointless
was
because you
on.
could just have quite a few.
on the MX-5.
Porsches had them.
It was on the MX-5. It
The
was on
the
the
911
MR2.
used to have them, I think, back in the day.
It was on the MR2 Mark 1, I'm sure.
And in my sort of era, the 80s version of what was it called? The TR7.
TVR? No,
No, the Triumph sports car.
Oh,
They've
yeah,
gone
yeah.
out of.
I remember that.
There was a TR8, and I think they stopped. But I think the I can't remember whether it was 7 or 8. One of the versions had these pop-up headlights.
So I'm intrigued by Revo's Ruby Renault.
Yes.
So is it out? You run it into the ground. Was it?
Yeah, what happened to it? We don't see it.
What happened? Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, we got.
Was this pre-family? Was it?
You've never seen
family?
it. You've never seen
No.
it. Mhm.
Well, no, I'm kind of I'm this. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. So DeLorean, the man DeLorean. I mean, DeLorean's just thought of as the name of the car. I think he's actually a real man and quite a flamboyant sort of businessman.
Well, it's an interesting name, isn't it? It sounds
Yeah.
French.
Yeah. I think he's American of some sort,
No, okay.
but he decided to set up in Northern Ireland.
Right. So, topic for tonight is past, present, and future.
Yeah, let's look at the future. Look to the future. It's only just begun, as a
Should we have
as
a
a
look at the
wise
next-
man would
Should we
say.
move from cars?
Well, we want look. We're on the channel Wallasey Unleashed for a reason. We're in Wallasey
No way.
and
Jose.
and we're unleashed. So let's. What should the future of Wallasey look like? What should it be in the future?
Let's have a quick look.
Wallasey at the we looked at it.
Should we have
was
a
it
look
last
at?
week?
Should we have a look at the local rag?
Yeah,
and see what it
yeah.
has
The
to
World
say?
Globe is our local newspaper, and apparently there's going to be some big. That's it. There's a picture of it in the future. Look, that's what Wallasey will look like in the future.
What? Just that?
It's an artist's impression of what will be built on the recently purchased Milton pavements. There we are. So they're set to move forward next year despite the coronavirus epidemic. Isn't this a... When was this? I thought this was a recent article. Scroll up, what does it say? Oh, it was 2027, 2020. So this year it's going ahead, yeah. Because it is going ahead. You can see that they're starting the building. They've taken over areas where there's old empty buildings. They're making them safe and putting wooden hoardings up. And so it's going ahead. That's what does it say? Perhaps the most talked
Hang on.
about.
So this is this Birkenhead or is this?
Well, I think it's both. It says Birkenhead, and then I think
Honest
Wallasey.
impression. Recent Milton pavements.
I don't know where Milton Pavements.
I know that Birkenhead's been,
move-
like it says there, perhaps the most talked about
Yeah,
regeneration
if
plan.
you scroll up,
the borough.
I'm hoping it has Wallasey in there as well. I thought that it did.
New Ferry.
No ferry.
Oh,
no,
for
no.
goodness sake.
There is a Wallasey bit to it.
New Brighton. There you go. New Brighton.
New Brighton, that's Wallasey. Yeah,
So New
and
Brighton
Liscard.
and Liscard are Wallasey. So let's have a look
Yeah.
at these two. Go on.
The bit. Well, before we get there, the bit of Birkenhead they're talking about is in my parish or one of my churches, which is in Wallasey. The Birkenhead. It comes round onto the docks area. Anyway, so yeah, but, they're doing a regenerament there. Let's go down to the bit we pointed it out on a previous show. New Brighton, right on the corner, I guess you might call it, of the estuary as it goes round onto the sea. Here on Merseyside, a regeneration plan for New Brighton will be produced. Key proposals are development of a new Lido,
Really?
an outdoor swimming pool combined with health, well-being and community facilities. That is what we call Back to the Future, because New Brighton, back in the day, used to have a big swimming pool, didn't it?
Yeah, and I swam in it.
Yeah, well, yes. It's not there anymore. It's now one of those retail parks, isn't it? It's got a cinema. And
I'd
it's
hardly
got,
say it was a retail park, but yeah, it's got a few restaurants. It's got a supermarket.
and,
Let's have a look at New Brighton.
And a cinema. Let's call that up again, because people will be interested in this. People who look at programs from Wallasey on the internet quite often have moved away from the Wirral and are looking back to see what's going on. I know people who keep in touch with the churches on the Wirral, even though they moved away. Yeah, there's a picture of you. Is one of those you on the right there? There's the
Yeah,
Lido.
I think that looks just by the colours about 1968. Yeah.
Oh yes,
But this was New Brighton swimming pool.
I could see a DeLorean in the background.
Yeah.
No, but I should be able to. Yeah, yes.
See,
But-
what I found really interesting was like with this
Yes,
image,
look at that.
it reminds me of the shot of the stadium where they play football between the inmates and the Germans in Escape to Victory.
it doesn't.
It has
have
a
very
Germanic feel to
It doesn't have a very friendly aesthetic. I think during that period was when was that? 1934. Yeah, I think. What do
yeah.
they call that? The modernist. The modernist.
There goes another
aesthetic.
one. Look at that. Big clock on it.
Where is that? Oh, Wallasey Central. Yeah, my goodness. Yeah, they all seem to have that sort of look. Yeah, so it went. New Brighton had a bit of a facelift, but then it's back in. What is that? Is that that's
Bondi
the
to
plans for it?
Brighton. Is
That's the plan, isn't it? A bit of Bondi to Brighton. Plans revealed for new £3 million. I think that is the plan for it, rather than reality. It's a mock-up. But the thing is, New Brighton back in the day was one of these places where, when you only had one holiday a year, everyone would go there from the area, wouldn't they? Go and lie on the beach. This is my understanding, anyway.
Right, Revo gave us an update on Ruby.
Oh, right. So let's go.
So I don't think they make them anymore. Yeah, probably not. It was a long time ago. It was so flimsy, it had a dent where a passenger had fallen into the front wing.
A passenger. I thought you were going to say just a pedestrian. I thought you were.
Well, there was, interesting enough, during the pandemic, there was a couple who swam in the Mersey every day of the year. And Rose just said, sounds great idea, not much fun in winter though. There are
Very good
breeds
point.
in New Brighton, I tell you.
Yeah.
They'll be
Well,
there.
people, as we were
They'll be
mentioning
there
the other
in
week,
snow
people,
and hail.
yeah, people go swimming outdoor there just in the river water. Well, the sort of it's a really water. Oh, you meant pedestrian? Oh, right. Oh dear.
What's that?
A pedestrian hit the car on the way. It was a pedestrian, not a passenger who fell into the front wing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, as long as you didn't go down for it, that's all right.
Go down.
Yeah, well, it's illegal, isn't it? Isn't it?
What, illegal to run people over?
I think so. Yeah, I didn't read the highway code too closely, but I'm sure.
I think that might have been an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think running people over wasn't recommended. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, just going back. Yeah, see, interesting. If they did a pool and they did it a bit like Centre Court at Wimbledon,
Yeah.
and they had a roof on it.
Yeah. Well, they can have a heated pool anyway. Imagine that. In the
Well,
winter, it's
yeah.
snowy everywhere else, and you're swimming up and down. Yeah.
yeah, well, they could heat it, and of course they won't need to heat it. I think it was actually, to be fair, the original pool. Let's go back to that. The original
It was
pool,
heated, was it?
No. I believe no, it wasn't heated. I believe it was in fact seawater.
Oh yes, that may well be true. 'Cause there was one in Guinea Gap further down the river.
Yeah, where I learnt to swim.
We've just discussed on Thank God It's Friday, if you want to look that up on this channel. It was river water, wasn't it? But came in and they once had dolphins swimming there.
That's right. Remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
It was good episode. That right.
Is there anything else? What else is going on in?
Let's go back to that.
It's planned
major
for the area.
regeneration.
So New Brighton Liscard is also in Wallasey early next year. So that's now changed to retail and residential areas because it said they're considering it. Well, the one thing that I noticed is that some shops have closed down.
Yeah.
After the lockdowns, developing the town centre to create a renewed urban village. Now, this is it. So if you do live in the area, they're going to be doing some sort of consultation. Now, that means you can have your say, as only if there's a groundswell of opinion would they take your opinion seriously. So if you have ideas, get in touch with these guys. It'll be sent round. If you're in the area, it'll be sent round to you, so you'll find out about it. I was involved in a regeneration of an area in North London, and all sorts of talk about what you needed there. And one of the things I think that's good to have is green.
It's green.
Yeah, grass, trees.
All right, green.
Yeah. Because it just makes everything seem better.
Well, these are
Make room for some green. that's
some
what I say.
relaxing places for people to sit.
Yeah, so if you've
This
got
is
all
right.
of Liscard now,
Let's have a look at this.
there's
Let's
no
have a look
green
at this.
there.
No.
Oh, well, there is outside. There's the park, but actually in the centre, a
People
bit of green
asked
would
their
be great.
views, such complete Liscard.
More greenery is mentioned. Look, more greenery.
See, I was listening to Radio 4,
Yes,
I think-
well, that's fine if you want to do that.
and they
I
were
mean,
talking about.
There's no shame in that.
No. Radio 4, and it was to do with the death of shops and online stuff and all that sort of thing. So, is it advertising? If we say Primani, people know what Primani is without even saying the real words. Do you know what Primani is?
I'm guessing, yes.
Right, so rather big retail shop. Since lockdown has ended, it's had massive queues,
Yeah.
and it's all to do with how well they've been doing on social media.
Ah.
So lots of other shops haven't even done anything.
Yeah. You need to
And-
keep up. Yeah.
Green
Yeah.
is meant to be calming
Yeah,
and
yeah, I agree.
therapeutic.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's you need a nice environment, I think, to keep people there, keep people in the centre. You see, if it's a nice place to be.
Revo likes the sun, you see. She likes to sit out in the sun.
Sit out in the sun when there
Yes.
is a bit of sun in this area.
Well,
It'd
we've
be
had
great.
quite nice weather this week, haven't we?
Yeah, that's the yeah. So Wallasey, let's see. Let's hope that they make their plans are good.
Okay, that's the end
Bring
of
in
that
new
one.
people. Well, I think it's just looking to
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah,
How
future
can you
plans.
improve things? Yeah, but hey, there's this there's this project that's ongoing now, an online project to see what things will be like in the future. What's it called? 2050 Earth. Now 2050 it's the future. You haven't got time for.
Is it 2050 AD? That sounds like a Dalek film. With
Yeah,
Peter
but-
Cushing.
But yeah, it's 2021 now, so that's only 29 years. It's,
Have a look.
Yeah, let's have a look at what. Yes, well, there's obviously we're not meaning that the Earth will be green and transparent. Although maybe they are.
What's
saying-
happening? Is that where I put? No, is that? Oh, it's me. I'm doing things.
Yeah, actually, that's 2040. I think.
Would you rather go 2050?
Yeah, click on 2050, see what it says.
What's happening?
Oh, it's transforming. Not much has changed, but
Is that a satellite? Well, is that? Is that?
if you, I think if you hover over things, it will say what it thinks. There we are.
Oh.
Tokyo transcontinental flights in 3 hours. Fuel from the ocean. Body in store. Ugh. So you could, I guess they say you could store your body. I think that's what they're saying. Osaka one.
People are free. I don't get that. Are they all imprisoned at the minute?
What happens if you click on that? Does it go into detail?
Bubbling with energy.
Because obviously those are predictions. So they're predictions from their own sort of experts, but also people can send them in. I believe when I read the brief blurb of this before the show, so people have sent in these ideas. What about Britain? Should we have a look? Where can we find where? Go round the Earth, look at Britain, look at the future. For Britain, there's a few shining lights in Britain. Bristol.
Right.
Bristol.
I can only get to. How do I stop this thing?
I don't
Can
know.
I zoom in? Oh, London.
London. Technology rules the world. I think. Can you click on one of the things?
Should I try and click on it?
Click on London. Go
No.
to London.
Oh, check that out.
There we are.
All right.
What will be in London in 2050?
Can I break this a little bit again?
Which one would you find interesting there? Just
Let's go through it.
well, find one. Yeah.
What will be in London 2050? With a significant lack of space in the City of London, the city will increasingly be dominated by residential skyscrapers. Interesting, bearing in mind a lot of commercial space might get freed up as a result of this pandemic.
I think it's interesting. Yeah, I agree, yeah.
With work ever able to be completed remote. Look at that. I just talking about telework.
You were just
These-
after saying that.
The residential sites will also contain open office spaces, cafes, gyms, and medical care. Walkways between these.
I don't think that will happen. I don't agree. I think people are moving out. Will be increasingly moving out of London.
And going where?
The rest of the country. I think that the idea that you see, if you can not have to go into London,
Yeah.
well, live somewhere else. If you can work remotely, you don't have to all be in one place. Is what I mean. Not that I've got things particularly against London. It's a city, isn't it? It's got some great places.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Got some bad places. But this is my thinking on it. London will have less skyscrapers and things. I think skyscrapers are, people don't really like them, and I think there's going to be less of them.
But isn't London and places like Liverpool where they've got like docks and warehouses and stuff, sort of 20th century stuff that's been converted into apartments and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that what you're going to do with a commercial building in London that's got nobody in it, you might as well convert it into flats.
Yeah, but they're saying there's going to be bigger.
If you can hear
ones
some
with
squeaking, Dilly's lying on the floor and he's snoring
the
and
dog
dreaming.
is snoring. Oh right,
He's
good.
dreaming. He's
Dreaming of the future.
For anybody listening and has been listening, Dilly's doing incredibly well. He's
Yes.
done marvellously. And
There was
the
a health
bit of a
scare
dream,
for those who haven't been as yet. There was a health scare for the dog, but
but he's doing very, very well at the minute. So
yeah, well, that's just my theory that people will move out.
I think you're right, but I think the problem with we'll have a look at that in a sec. Revo, I think the
yes,
interesting point is that what you're going to do is just have vacant space in Liverpool, in London.
No, I just don't think it'll be as intensive. So, the old office buildings, I guess we pull down, have some nice houses there, or maybe apartment blocks, but not huge tower blocks, which was seem to be envisaged. I think you'll be able to spread out more.
Yeah, maybe.
So other towns like smaller cities like Cambridge, for example,
Yeah,
they've
maybe.
already started to have their hinterland growing up with residential areas. It's just the way I see it going, but things
Okay.
could change.
Do you want to take the next one? Revo says
Plug-in memory.
I was interested in the plug-in of extra memory. Go for that, Pete.
Yeah. Okay. It says some scientists fear that computers may develop minds of their own and pursue goals hostile to humanity. Would a powerful futuristic AI, would almost read that, would a power futuristic AL remain
Yeah.
docile? But I
Absolutely.
think it says AI.
Yeah.
Or go rogue. Would it understand human goals and motives and align with them? Would it learn enough ethics and common sense so that it knew when?
See, click on these.
I think this. It looks like it's going to carry on.
Yeah, because
There we are. That it knew
you're there.
when these should override its other motives. If it could infiltrate the Internet of Things, it could manipulate the rest of the world. Its goals may be contrary to human wishes, or it may even treat humans as encumbrances. AI must have a goal, but what really is difficult to instill is common sense. AI should not pursue its goal obsessively.
We've done
It should
this.
be prepared to desist from its efforts rather than violate ethical norms. Yeah, no, in
We
an
did
early
this.
one of our shows, we
Yeah,
talked
we-
about the three laws of
Laws.
robotics by Isaac Asimov,
That's right. Yeah.
which was sort of in their operating system. They couldn't contravene these three rules. You were, let's see, you had to, you mustn't, you must keep humans safe. You must cause harm. Your actions mustn't cause harm to humans. And third, you must obey humans.
Yeah.
So if obeying humans contradicted the others, you couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
the first one was.
So let me go back to the first one on here, because it kind of finished on the not that one. Whoops.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That
Yes.
one.
Yeah. What did that say? If you clicked on it? Oh, yeah.
Walkways between these buildings will create communities in the sky and reduce the need for people to leave the indoors.
Oh, yeah. They
Well,
were
that-
saying, yeah.
That'll have something to do with climate change. No, oh, I never said that.
Climate.
A trend towards self-sufficiency. See, now I'm keen on self-sufficiency due to the ever-growing awareness of our planet's. See, look, it's still. I keep for. I haven't read this. Will lead to high-rise city gardens to be created.
I mean, that would be great if it did.
Hey, look, 42. So there's thumbs up. and
Oh,
thumbs down
let's
here.
let's vote. What do you think?
I think you have to log in, don't you? Sign in.
Oh right. Oh, we can't do that. can we?
Well, let's not go too mad. Let's just have a look.
Yeah,
So,
maybe one day.
okay, new entertainment, life from start to finish. Okay,
Oh, this is going to be a Truman Show type thing, is it?
maybe.
Let's say by 2050 there will be a new leisure activity called Life from Start to Finish. It will go something like this. The participant will be immersed in a state of sleep in which the brain is under the influence of special drugs and neurocomputers, creating a kind of reality inside the person. The sleeping person will not be aware that they are living a different life, and within 2 to 3 days of normal time, they will live an entire life internally, from the cradle to the grave. Special computers will generate the surrounding environment, creating a full life in every respect, Matrix style, like that movie. Dying in the internal world will cause the participant to wake up into the real one. Potentially harmful memories of non-existent places or people will be forgotten, but useful skills and knowledge will remain. If the sleeping person grew up in a foreign country, for example, the language, history, and mentality of this virtual homeland will stay with them. Scientific know-how could be streamed into the mind. It will take the concept of edutainment to a new level. That's a new word to me, but there we are. Young people having lived a virtual life will be smarter and more mature as a result. They'll be less rash and understand the consequences of their actions. What's more, there will
What do you
be.
mean there'll be less rash?
Well, that's what it says. Well, I suppose.
Is that virtual sex then?
I think.
that's not the kind of rash they're talking about.
Well, I think if
Okay.
you're lying around all the time, you may develop a rash.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's more, just to finish this, what's more, there will be various levels of difficulty for people from all walks of life. They will be able to select lives that vary greatly in terms of complexity and challenges. Perhaps we're already playing it right now. I was waiting for that because I thought right at the start, when it said you could live a whole life and your mind is being created, how do you know it's not happening now?
That's why they quoted Matrix. Right, so
How
look at
do
the
you
next
know?
one. What's the next
How do
one?
you know? This could all be.
Yeah, we haven't got a huge amount on this, so we'll go with this. New life.
It
Right,
could all
okay.
be a terrible dream.
Let me have a look at this one. Let's fade this in. So, glass that shuts out bright light. A special type of glass will be produced for sunglasses, cars and other items and vehicles. A light analyzer will locate the source of the bright light and the eye pupil. A simple algorithm will cause a small speck or darkened area to move across the glass, blocking the light source. Externally, it can be any kind of glass. It will be useful for working in orbit, driving, dimming oncoming vehicle headlights, sunbathing, protecting against projectors and floodlights, welding, etc. It's interesting how many people are agreeing with this nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, some things could be developed like that, but it's difficult to tell because I would have thought, well, 29 years is not that far in the future.
Yeah,
But-
but remember back in 1980, you know, they were asking what's going to happen in the year 2000 and everyone wouldn't be working. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there was this idea of reducing the working week, isn't it? Because once we have, and when the internet was coming in, they were saying, well, the internet will mean that you have a paperless office, and that never happened. It produced more paper, didn't
Yeah,
it?
computers generated more paper than they did before.
Yes, and
Well,
so
it's like a
I think
quite-
things
quite a
never
big one,
develop. I had a friend at university who was called Ian. Just give his first name if you're watching. Remember this? We had this long conversations.
Do you know what? I think he's just tuned in.
Yeah. Well, you're probably listening right now. Well, Ian, if you remember, we had a long conversation about what would happen in the future with AI, with robots becoming more and more sophisticated. I'll put this to you, Al, then to see whether you find this anxious or not, anxiety-inducing or not.
Yeah.
Someone just made this up. Yeah, quite likely actually. But maybe no one actually tuned into the site except us. They just made it up. Anyway, it's quite possible.
Good
Yeah.
website though. I like the graphic.
I like it. I'll probably go back to it and have a look through and
Yeah.
maybe
Go on,
make some
then,
comments.
give us a question.
But so the question is, so this was with my mate Ian when we were in Gravelly Road in Birmingham. Remember, we were staying in the same house and we had these long conversations. And one of them, the recurring conversation, was about AI and development of robots, this sort of thing. Now, he believed that robots and artificial intelligence would develop to be more intelligent than humans and would eventually replace them as being in charge. And he said he was happy with that. Once they are superior, well, then they should be in charge. That was his view. My view was, from how I'd seen things develop in the past, I would say, yeah, that theoretically could happen, but things never turn out like that. I think that in the end, every machine, everything automatic, everything that you would think would transform everything and remove the human equation, always ended up not quite doing that, and humans still being needed, but in a different way. Where industry, then robots within industry, I suppose, taking over the production line, but still humans are employed. So I just
It's interesting. Reminds me of the Matrix or one of them.
Yes, go on.
when they're in Zion and he's I can't remember a big cheese in Zion. He's chatting to Neo and he says, "If you look down there, that's the water purifying plant. Don't know how it works. It's made by machines."
yeah.
And it's like this relationship that they are reliant upon each other.
Yeah. Well, what's
I don't like the idea of a concept of what your mate Ian,
yes,
from Gravelly Road, yeah,
that's where we were at the time.
yeah.
I don't know where he is now.
Well, I don't like the idea of like them taking over completely. I think there's mundane tasks.
Well, what's their superior? He thought, no, you see, no. The reason he thought they could do it, the
Only if
key
you
thing
allow
was
them to
AI.
be.
Yeah, the key thing was AI. In that, you see, if they could develop and then learn, they could eventually make make new versions of themselves. So they're actually doing the designing and the planning. So they go way ahead of what humans can do. That was the thinking.
Yeah.
But
Come on.
but what surprised me was he said he'd be pleased about it.
Is that because he thinks that progress would be better?
He thinks it. I mean, at the time, I don't know if he's changed his view now. At the time, he was very keen on this.
When was this conversation, by the way?
1987.
How old were you then?
I was 22.
Yeah. Okay. Was this university type?
This was a university residence.
Ah,
That's
okay,
exactly what I'm
right.
talking about. Yeah. So I believe that. As I say, I believe that it wouldn't actually happen. But were it to happen, I still wouldn't be happy about it. But at the time, one of his, I suppose, he was an intelligent guy. I think he was doing some form of engineering. He was studying, but his main interests were drinking beer and eating curry. I seem to remember. So I mean,
Oh,
as long as he was allowed to do that,
That's still a large main interest for a lot of men, I think.
yeah. But I mean, during the day, he was doing high level stuff. His maths level was up there, so as I understand it, so to be on that course. So obviously, he's an intelligent individual. The job's interesting. In the evenings, drinking.
Do you know
beer
whatever
and
happened
eating
to
curry.
Ian?
No, I don't know. No, I lost touch with him. No, but I thought he might be tuning in. Well, you never know.
He might be watching this on catch up
It might
at some
be.
point in the future.
In the future. We're talking
Right.
to Ian in the future. What
Yeah.
do you think? Let us
So
know.
Revo's asked, could robots make moral decisions though?
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Now, in the Asimov book, and then, series of books that became I, Robot, and it was made into a movie, wasn't it? The idea is that they can. I mean, his whole concept was, you see, he developed, when Asimov developed it, he started off having this robot who he just liked the character, so he kept developing it and in short stories, and eventually it became this robot who wanted to be recognised as someone who had moral agency, in other words, to be human. So he believed that he'd learned much that he could, and in the Isaac Asimov stories, I just spoiler here for the whole of Isaac Asimov's writing career, but in the end he becomes God.
Nice.
But which was also an interesting concept. But can they be moral? Well, what is a moral decision? If it's is it something that's logical? Do you need to have feelings to have a moral decision?
I think that's the killer question, isn't it? Could
Yeah.
robots make moral decisions?
Yeah.
I think moral and ethical and those kind of elements are to do with culture, to do with
To do with your beliefs about God and this sort of thing. Okay. isn't it? Yeah.
that's the deepest question I've heard all day. Could robots make moral decisions? Especially with the word "though" on the end. Yeah, though. Could
Yeah,
they
yeah.
though? Could they though? Yeah.
Could they
I don't know. I think.
Am
that's
I bothered
interesting.
though? Yes.
Am I bothered?
Yeah.
Right, let's just move on to this next thing
Yeah, 'cause
otherwise
that's
we'll
too
do it there.
difficult a question.
We aren't going to run for too long tonight. We're going to go for
no.
a couple of hours rather than the 3. So
Yeah,
let's move
yeah,
on
yeah.
to the next one. Take
No.
this one, Pete.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah. This largest hacker attack in history hits 90% of all people and organisations on the planet. This I could see happening. The 21st century has seen the coming to power of internet giants. Almost all services people use belong to a handful of majors. The result, I just had this view, of a major twirling his moustache, looking very pleased with himself.
Yeah.
But anyway, the result of the tech revolution is the transition to a newer network infrastructure based on satellites covering the entire surface of the Earth. Okay, people will go about their daily lives without even suspecting that skipping just one small system check will put their precious personal data at risk. So the 2050s will witness the biggest leak in human history. The satellite network will be compromised and user data intercepted by the hacker group responsible will be uploaded to the public domain. Yes, I got it. All the different parts of your personal stuff. 90% of all people and organisations on the planet will be affected. The ensuing chaos will be hard to bring under control. Corporations and countries will try to mitigate the consequences as best they can. It's unlikely that even Elliot Alderson will be able to cope. I don't know who that is.
No, me neither.
The incident, as it was originally called in the media, will be on a par with the most frightful terrorist attacks of the 20th and 21st centuries, but everything will be self-defeating. The stolen data that people want access to will spread like wildfire, and only part of it will be deleted. In the mid-2050s, Elon Musk will deliver a report to the UN on the infeasibility of controlling the flow of information. The upshot will be the legalization of companies specializing in selling personal data. Hacking will become officially legal. So for half a Bitcoin, it will be possible to gain access to the leaked data and directly impact people's lives. The term private life and private data will become obsolete. A new ruling structure will appear in some parts of the world known as the plethorocracy. Plyrofocracy. I don't know. From the Greek word for information. Okay, if you say so. Knowledge will be power like never before. Resource-rich groups will peddle any information on their servers entirely legally, but against the backdrop of all the horror unfolding in the 2050s and 60s. A small section of society will emerge, dissatisfied with the regime, the last stronghold of information security. These cyber heroes will live with just one goal in mind: to save the still savable, and their names are Al and Pete. Yeah. That's it. That's our future.
How old will I be in 2050?
Old enough, I think. I think you'd probably be mature by then.
I might have done. I doubt it, though.
As I said, 2050 is
interesting-
29 years, isn't it?
Interesting point. I'm just trying to think this through about personal data.
Yeah.
So the thing about personal data is most people's personal data is the same.
Yeah, it's not that interesting.
It isn't that interesting. You know, at the moment, like today, we already have data being sold
Yeah.
about us. We can see that in the way that it works online, how advertising is targeted specifically for you, based on what you've been looking at, you know, and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit weird, isn't it, how that works?
Yes, there was the interesting case.
I think
I'll
the
come back
access to data might be compromised, but I think I'm kind of thinking about. So let's think of banks, for example. If you could access people's personal information on a bank, does that mean you could access their money?
Well, this is the issue that I have with their prediction. They say it's as though there will be no development on the protection side. Oh, suddenly hackers will be great, but also suddenly security. Also during that time, security experts will also be brilliant, and so, you know, I don't.
Well, I think it's just going to be one of those cat and mouse things.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
always
exactly.
happens. Yeah,
That's
so
what- yeah.
cat and mouse, and we'll end up with, like, I don't know, what is it, 256-bit encryption now, which is almost impossible to read this unless you've got the right tools. And
Or
actually, do you remember? I don't know. Here's another film. Do you remember? Is it Sneakers? No, Hackers. No, hang on.
there was a movie called Hackers. I've not seen it, but
I think it's Hackers. I think it's Robert Redford.
I think that's probably right.
Get off my. I hate. Right, hang on.
We can't see what you can see, but
Yeah, I know. Cause
is someone trying to hack you?
Yeah, I just 1995 film. No, it's not that. I think it might be.
Yes, no.
Let me just see.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a film called Hackers. Yes, the Robert
There it is.
Redford's been in a
It
few of those
is.
sort
There
of
it
thrillers.
is. IMDb.
Thriller, is it?
Yeah, it's
Thriller.
called Sneakers.
Oh, Sneakers, not Hackers. Right.
Yeah, it was Sneakers. Right.
Oh, right.
This is actually one of my favouriteest films.
I've never seen it. There you go. When was it made? He looks quite
I
old.
think it's
there, so-
95.
Yeah. Okay.
Robert Redford, Dan Aykroyd, Ben Kingsley, Mary McDowell, River Phoenix, Sidney
Yeah.
Poitier, and David.
Yeah. Good
Strathairn.
cast. Yeah.
Really, really, really good. And it was a phenomenal film. If you've not seen
What is how would you summarise the plot then?
it just-
Obviously, you're not giving away
A
the end.
security pro finds his past coming back to haunt him when he and his unique team are tasked with retrieving a particular important item.
Oh, okay. Well,
And I can't, because it's that good, and I'm hoping that people might actually go and watch it.
Maybe I
In
will.
fact, I might
yeah,
have to go and
yeah.
in fact, after this show, I'm going to see if I can track it down. It's such a good film.
Yep, I think I
See if
might see
Revo's
it.
up to watching it.
Says I might sort of film.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's spy type, and it's high tech,
Yeah.
and it's just really, really good film.
Yeah.
Really good film.
Yeah.
But
So-
yeah, it's how can I'm trying desperately to see if I can give something away without giving all of it away.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose the initial outset, which probably doesn't knacker the plot too much, is that as a security company, what they do is they try and break
Yeah.
security systems for companies.
Yeah.
So, for example, like a bank. So, a bank implements a security system, and they go and try and break it,
Yeah.
and prove its flaws. Yeah, and that's how it sort of starts off, and then it goes quite deep, and there's some twists in it. Then it's got some political stuff in it, and yeah, some high tension stuff in it. It's a really good film.
I think that is. Yeah, well, you can make thrillers out of this because you've got antagonists, you've got people on either side, and I think that that's always going to be the case. You mustn't think that the hackers are going to win necessarily. It could be that the banks win, or that even occasionally the people win. Just occasionally.
Yeah, that's just wishful thinking. People never win.
But something else happened that could between now and 2050, which is, as I say, 29 years. So I'm 56 now, so I will be 85 then. I may by then have witnessed the downfall of the whole of Western society, and we could have had a complete, catastrophe of falling away. We lose all the industry that we'd had, and maybe there'd be a great problem. The seas, due to global warming, the seas overwhelm the land, or we have problems with crops, and the whole of society breaks down, and we just now by 2050 we've started just living on the land. There's no internet; it's all crashed and gone, and people are driven to
You're
writing
painting
things
a really
down on
positive
paper.
outlook for our future there.
Could
Pete,
be.
aren't
I'm
you?
just saying that could happen.
Yeah.
If you're going to say the greatest hack, maybe the opposite will happen, and the whole internet will disappear.
It's an interesting point though, because when you look at the concept of hacking,
Yeah.
hacking, you can look up hacking online now, like on YouTube, and in a positive kind of way.
Yeah, it used to be just
It
negative.
used
didn't
to
it?
always be like, oh, the hackers are these evil people with the
Yeah.
what is it, V for Vendetta masks on and
Yeah.
stuff, and trying to. Do you remember what was the film? War Games. Remember War Games? Do you remember War Games?
No, I didn't see it. Well, I didn't see it, so I don't know.
So it was that must have been 1980 with what's his name, Matthew Broderick.
But I know,
Do you know the film?
vaguely,
Robert?
I know the one you mean. Yes.
So yeah, he manages to sort of hack into something.
Yeah, and he
you know,
accidentally starts a war, right?
yeah, starts basically the countdown of NORAD's computers. It's like looking at the difference from 1990 to now. Is it all that different?
1990. Well, there's a very different feel to things, isn't there? I mean, but they're right. The fundamental differences, are they there? I mean, obviously, the internet has grown to be not quite
Take over the
not
world.
quite universal, but it's there. There's but culture has changed quite a bit since 1990. I would say, but you've got to go about a bit further, haven't you? You're right. It's not quite long enough to see the really huge changes. I mean, when if you look at say 1970s to now, it is like a completely different world. Yeah, the culture.
I'm
way
trying.
that
I'm
people
trying to think
interact.
this. I'm trying to think this through because I'm trying to think about.
1990 to now, yes, that's.
I'm trying to think.
31
I'm trying to
years.
think of the implications of technology, and the change in people's beliefs,
Yeah.
and the change in people's behaviour. How that's worked in society, in culture, subcultures, and all that sort of
it's
stuff.
interesting because I was talking about this with my children because they tend to play computer games and this class of thing and maybe watch videos on a tablet.
Yeah.
Or they read or draw things. You can draw things on a tablet. You get your stylus
Yeah.
And you're drawing it. So that's great. Now, when I was young, I used to spend a lot of my time reading books, and okay, it is different, but from the outside, it isn't that different. You're not relating to other people, and you're reading.
It's the I suppose at the end of the day, it's the consumption of information, isn't it? And I think that's the point, isn't it? If you can consume it faster,
Yeah. But what I was going to say was people playing games often are relating to other people. So maybe it's better.
oh, I certainly see things as positive. I think it works both ways.
Yeah.
Rover's just put up social media's grown massively. Yeah, it has.
The social media thing is something personally I never saw coming. I couldn't see the way it developed. But has it gone now? Not gone completely, but the freedom of the internet, then social media, people just airing their views, seems to have gone. In that the big social media sites, anyway, seem to have this view that they're pretty much like a publisher. They need to be responsible for what's on their site, whereas there was a view before, and this is what allowed them to exist. Really, these big internet companies like Google, and then Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. The reason they were able to grow and they're just able to function was that legally they were seen as like a platform, like a phone company. You use the phones to say whatever you wanted, in the same way you use their website to say whatever you wanted, and they weren't responsible. But they seemed, I've seen a big change that they're now policing what's on their site.
But isn't that down to culture though, or possibly politics?
Well, I think
political correctness.
Yeah, it's just the changing role of it. All I'm looking at, whether they're right or wrong to do it, it's changed what they're like. They're no longer sort of like just free for everyone. You can have any opinion. There's a range of opinions, but you can't go outside it. There's this. I don't know where the name comes from. Maybe you do. The Overton window. You have this idea that the Overton window is a window of acceptable opinion, and so it can change, but you can't during your particular time period. If you go outside it, you're ostracised.
Mm-hmm.
And on these,
what's it called?
The Overton window.
Overton.
I think it's Overton.
I used to live in Overton.
I guess it's named after someone.
Outside Basingstoke.
I don't know where it comes from. Oh right, okay.
So
yes, unless you're looking out of a window just outside
up.
Basingstoke. Yeah, look it up and see if I've got it right there. I've heard it said. I've never seen it written down.
Yeah,
So,
Overton Window. It's a book by Glenn Beck.
Oh right, okay.
It's a movie.
Yeah. Oh. But what is about Overton window definition? See where.
So are we all right to go down the old wiki route? Might as well. Let's have a look.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
wiki.
Let's see. Yeah. On this sort of thing, where it's sort of common culture. Oh, he calls it the Overton window, but where does it? Political thriller. Here you are. It's a concept in political theory. Click on where it says Overton window in blue there and see what the definition is. A range of policies politically acceptable in the mainstream population at the given time. It's also known as the window of discourse. So that's what you're allowed to talk about. On the right, you can see over there, Overton window, unthinkable, radical, acceptable, sensible, popular.
Yeah.
And it can become policy even if it's completely acceptable. Then it's a way of thinking. And so that Overton window, right, is maybe for the general population, I believe, is different to what big tech like Facebook and YouTube and Google, what they think, because their leadership comes from a particular cultural milieu, so they have certain views, not necessarily what everyone else thinks, So I think that their Overton windows here, say mine is here, there's overlap, but it means there's certain things that we wouldn't be able to put out, for example.
It's an interesting dynamic. I love this concept, the Overton window, because it's a nice way to sum up a lot of what's going on.
Yeah. Yes, I'd heard people say, I didn't know Glenn Beck had written that. I like Glenn Beck. I like his shows, but I didn't know he'd written that book. That's another thing I might look up.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, that Overton window moves. And I
Yeah,
think the
yeah.
problem I've got is when it moves. Let me just switch that back.
Yeah,
Just
what-
the notion
yeah.
of. Let me just blow this up a sec.
Yeah.
The notion of is policy, popular, sensible, acceptable, radical, unthinkable.
Yes.
And of course, when certain things move into the. I can go with radical. When it moves into the unthinkable and becomes the norm,
Yes.
that's the biggest risk that we've got right now, I think,
Yeah.
world side.
What
Do
the
you know
over,
what I mean?
You think it's moving?
I think it's been moving for
Or it's
a while.
moved. It's moved.
It's already moved into a point where we would consider
Well,
unthinkable things
yeah. Without
to
saying
become
yeah,
the norm.
yeah. Without saying the particular things. Yeah, I don't,
No,
don't we need
it,
to.
it doesn't matter what it is, yeah.
It's something that you would. That's absolutely radical, over the edge, mad, crazy. Actually, do a specific thing from the past. Because we said we can criticise Nazis. The idea that you had a particular group within society, you needed to eradicate them. That's unthinkable. But gradually, during the 1930s, it became more and more thinkable.
Yeah.
And then it became policy. And this was a conscious moving of
But
the.
that hasn't changed. That's the thing. I mean, the outcome is rather than genocide, yeah, perhaps it's something different. So you still have groups of people that are being removed.
Yes, but
Now,
are they different? Are they different groups? That's what,
Yeah, they are different groups,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's. I mean, it's an interesting point. That's why I think this. I'm going to look into this over some window a bit more because it's really really interesting the way that this is working.
No, we
and
joked earlier about whether people actually left comments. Now, maybe this section will be of our longer show will be put out separately, but it'd be interesting to know what you think, gentle listener or viewer. Put a comment below. What do you? Is this has the Overton window what you're allowed to think change such that things that you think are unthinkable are now policy, and vice versa?
And the
That's what I'd
flip,
like to
and
know.
the flip side
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that is, are there things that you think, yeah, that if you voiced would be considered unthinkable?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting.
It's really skewed, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's what's happened. I think if I had to look back over the last 50 years, I mean I'm coming up to 50 anyway, but I'm 48. But if I had to look over the last 50 years, and I think about some of the big changes in, be it from tech, travel, transportation, for example, mechanisms of say manufacture and all this sort of stuff, and then you also start taking things like culture into. One of the biggest switches, I think we've had a massive switch in culture, probably based on this kind of Overton window. It's
Yeah, it's
really
moved, it's
intriguing
moved.
because actually it's changed dramatically.
Yeah. So, do you think then? I mean, this is another question for you Al, and people watching. Do you think that that this has been that there's been a deliberate change? So, have these social media companies, which we were just talking about, having control over what's said on their platforms, have they moved the overall Overton window? What's acceptable in our daily discourse? What is it acceptable to talk about?
I
Do you
think-
it's been
think-
that profound?
If I'm honest, I don't think that it's necessarily been quite by design.
Right.
I
Okay.
think it's become what was the phrase that just came into my mind? It's become a side effect
Right.
of what's happened, which has become almost uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing, is that, and you can add probably political correctness into this and how people have changed their. This is to do with like human rights and all of these things that kick in.
Yeah.
This has become uncontrollable and unmanageable, and actually, it's kind of out of their hands.
Yes.
You get companies reacting to certain things
Yeah.
based on what is. Let's go on here.
Yeah.
Based on what is popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily what's sensible.
No.
Yeah, but what is considered popular.
Yeah.
And popular is an interesting word.
Yes.
It's a very interesting
Now-
word, popular, because of course, if the masses think that this is the right thing to do, whether it's right or not, through whatever reason, I mean, just to not to harp about the Second World War, but there was a certain thing that happened to a huge number of people in a certain country, how they became under the influence of propaganda and such on thinking and believed what they were being told was right.
Yes, they did.
And you know it's terrible, and that doesn't mean that none of us are not susceptible to that.
They did, and they
more or less now.
They targeted the young people, the youth, were the people who. The youth were people who were groomed, and so they would often then fight against their elders, and it may be that social media has been anyway used more by young people, but I don't know that that's true. So much true anymore after so many years of it.
I don't know. I think that Rover's made a very good point. Political correctness means some things are unacceptable to say.
It does, yeah.
And that is this is a real problem for. I mean, is this future, past or present? It is. To be honest, this is still in theme with our program, and this is something I find quite close.
This is about change. It's about that.
It's all about a change. I think that's a very critical point. Is that the fact of the matter is this is all to do with freedom of speech. And this conceptual idea of the potential to offend.
Yeah.
And political correctness says you can't say something in case you offend somebody.
Yes.
And actually, every time you open your mouth through the concept of freedom of speech and conversation and debate, you always run the risk of offending somebody. And, you know, that's just part and parcel of debate and discussion. But when you get silenced on that front, through political correctness, I think political correctness is going to implode on itself in the next 20 years in a massive way. Yeah. And I have no idea the impact of that.
It's interesting, actually, this is my personal experience.
Yeah.
Because I've been a vicar or in that sort of role for 20 years, people don't swear around me very often. And it's interesting how strange it feels when people swear. It's not. I'm not saying that whether it's good or bad. It's irrelevant. It feels weird. It just feels like it's from a different culture. And so some words just when they just not said, they get removed from it gets removed from the discourse. So you forget about them. And so I forget about the swear words and the coarseness of some language because I don't hear it. So it banning things. So taking it more to concepts, in banning things from social media, people aren't exposed to them. So you're not allowed. You don't even get the chance to think about whether they're good and bad. They get driven underground. So people, there's a podcast that I listen to called The Thought Police, which is a couple of people who are presenters on talk radio, and I listen to it, but they swear almost every sentence throughout.
Yeah.
Because they're not allowed to swear when they're on the radio. So so they stored up all these swear words and they just splurge them out. And it's going to be like that in the podcast. Of course, it is not subject to broadcast rules. But, people will be doing it underground on the quiet. I mean, the famous YouTuber Stephen Crowder with his Louder with Crowder show, he was talking about this in a recent interview and saying, look, if I'm it's an interview with Michael Knowles, and in the interview they were discussing this and saying, if Louder with Crowder, which is a big show on the on YouTube, is driven to just having being on its own website, which it does exist, and then you're not going to get new people. The people who really like Stephen Crowder and his show will move with him, but he's not going to get many new people. And then it'll be like an echo chamber. There'll just be all people who agree with each other, have a particular point of view. And then you'll get people saying, oh, they're just in an echo chamber. Who are those crazies? But it's because they weren't allowed to be part of the mainstream discourse. So I think it's really a bad idea to not have all the ideas there. Because if you get ideas knocking against each other, you get the good ideas, or the ones with strong, rational thought behind them. They will eventually float to the surface. But if they don't knock against each other, you don't get that. So you can end up with very bad ideas being believed. I think that's already happening.
Absolutely.
What has Pixel Priest said here? It's all gone a bit mad. My relative in Canada says you cannot post a recipe on social media group without a caveat that this might offend those with little food. Yes, that does sound crazy. Yeah. Mm. Yes. But having said that, I think that there are certain words. There's some words shouldn't be said.
What, are you talking vulgar words?
Yeah. Well, no, like the N word.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's
although,
right.
Although it's allowed to be used by certain communities, you're allowed to use it.
Yeah. But the thing is, although it derives from the scientific word Negro, fair enough. But it was, as far as I can tell, always used as a demeaning word to put people down. So therefore, because it's got that history, I have no problem with banning it.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to say it. I deliberately didn't say it.
I know
have no problem with that. And a few other words, maybe.
Yeah, I know that you're not a personal fan of vulgarity.
No.
However, to me, language is language. And I think that it is also a form of expression. And for me, it depends on where you are. I had this conversation with somebody else today, actually, which, I mean, I've spoken to people who are CEOs in big companies, and I've spoken to people down the pub, all right, and everyone in between. And what I try to do is I try to adapt my conversational piece to the audience in which I'm talking to, in a sense of, I mean, I might drop the odd expletive around you, and I know you're cool to go with that, and that's just me being me.
Yeah. The people don't swear around me. I don't tell them not to.
No. But I know you well enough, and I've been in a situation where every other line has got the F word in it, and that I work with people who have who use expletives quite a lot in conversation, and that's part of day-to-day life for them. It's not actually, it's like I was use this as an example. I won't use the actual language itself, but when someone says, "Oh, I'm not very happy," it doesn't really quite resonate quite the same as saying, "I'm absolutely effed off." Yeah, with a situation, it's also part of culture, and you can't change it as well. And people say, "Oh, well, people only use it because they're not intelligent to use the right." Sometimes
they don't know enough words.
Yeah, well, whatever, and that's quite. I think that's quite demeaning as well, because actually, if somebody only has a vocabulary that big and they explain something and use expletives to do it, it doesn't make any difference to me. I've noticed that people have become more accepting of people's comments in things like posts and stuff on Facebook have got typos in them or spelling mistakes or stuff like that, because you know what people are trying to say, and you can sit there and you can point the finger at somebody's poor grammar. And you see, there's always someone.
It can be fun.
Yeah,
to do that.
yeah, it can be. But you always see someone and think, no, don't be that person. Just don't be that person. Why is it you want to have a go?
Nazi.
Yeah. Why is it you want to do that? You're missing the point of the post. You're just wanting to big up.
Having said that, some posts on Facebook, I honestly don't know what they're saying because.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. You're right.
But the the thing I would make about language. This is just a Christian thing, So for people who try to represent Christ in Christianity, so just for those that idea. But I guess it could be, it could be translated to other things you're trying to represent. But particularly for that, I would say that you would, in general, not want to swear. No, I mean occasionally you're going to do it, but because it's done around you. It becomes part of your.
You make it sound like it's an uncontrollable, and
I think it is.
No, it's not.
No. What I'm saying is,
I don't believe it's an uncontrollable at all. I think it's a.
I think when people get angry, sometimes they reach for the strongest word. So if it's a word they've been deliberately not saying, they'll reach for that. If they're very angry, or they drop something on their toe or something.
Most people go, maybe, with the S word or something like
that.
But I don't think it. I strongly believe this. I'm just sorry to interject, but I strongly believe that. Certainly the way I use language more so specifically.
Yes.
And I can also use it in a jovial sense as well.
Yeah.
The key thing for me about expletives and vulgarities is when they're aimed as an offensive mechanism to somebody else.
Yeah.
So if you say someone, you're a stupid F, or something like that, that's unacceptable.
Yes.
But if you use the F word in a different scenario, it's acceptable in my terms because it's about expression.
No, it's sort of a general point.
Yeah, go on,
that I'm making. Well, because let me give you another example of a different area. So Christians in a different area. Christians in Uganda I know people who've done missionary work there.
Yeah.
Christians in that area don't drink alcohol. So, and the reason is there's a big problem with alcoholism. There's a big in the area where the people were living. Ginger with a J. A particular city has a huge factory. A byproduct of which I can't remember what they make. Even byproduct of which is alcohol.
Right.
So people were just taking it. People would just drink themselves into oblivion, and it's such a problem. The Christians make a stand against it. They don't drink. So if you're a Christian who drinks, you ruin the point that they're making, that alcohol is killing people. So Christians join together as one and don't drink. Really committed Christians in Britain used to not drink. Now there's more of an emphasis on drinking sensibly, but drinking to excess Christians don't do because it's bad for you. It's not. It doesn't. You could sort of get it from the Bible. It says in the Bible there's a verse saying, "Do not get drunk with wine, but get drunk with the Spirit." With God's Spirit. But you can't really make a case for not drinking at all because Jesus even turned water into wine. So.
Yeah, but you're talking almost about an ideal, and
I'm just saying
yeah.
it's obviously people. Not everyone's going to fulfil it, but as a general idea, Christians tend not to swear, or not to swear as much, maybe. Try not to offend people, but it just gives an idea that you're a little bit more caring. Not everyone who swears is a bad Christian. In fact, there's probably so many people.
But the reality is that people that do swear aren't bad Christians either.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not.
Sorry, I listened to everyone say.
Yeah.
See, what's really interesting is like my mum. Yeah, my mum swears.
Right.
Very, very rarely, and it's like read on a page.
Right.
So it's like when you listen to somebody talking and every sentence has got an expletive in it, it's like the whole page is read.
Yes.
So it doesn't mean anything.
It
doesn't mean it. When my mum does it, it's like a read on a page, and it's like,
then something serious. Yes.
oh dear, yes. If she said anything that's a bit sweary, then she's not very happy.
Yes. Then you're in trouble, right?
Well, I'm probably not in trouble because but there's something that's troubled her.
Right.
Okay. So it's important to her. So, but to me, like I say, I kind of have this. I kind of made this decision myself quite a few years back that people are people, language is language, and I was listening to something the other day. Actually, it was really, really quite interesting. It was, I don't know how I came across it. It was on YouTube, and it was the accent and the vocabulary of London speech over the last 500 years.
Yes, I've seen that video. Yes.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it? And it was interesting listening to them and how they pronounce the vowels and all of this stuff. And it was like, actually, I was really quite amazed. And I didn't go into trying to understand how they managed to figure all this out. But, there's enough documentation and stuff like that they were using. And it was just really interesting. But fundamentally, it's all just about communication.
Yeah. I mean, yes. The thing about which words are swear words, it's similar to the Overton window thing we were talking about, because I remember my grandparents thinking the word stuff. You tell people to get stuffed, or you say what the stuff. They saw stuff as a swear word when you as well. And you're not now. Bloody used to be a swear word, and it seems not to be now. I think to be a good swear word, you've got to have a harsh sound, though.
But interestingly,
the word short, harsh sound.
But interestingly, the word piss for a piss pot was not swearing.
No.
And then it became swearing, and now it's almost acceptable, even on daytime radio.
Yeah. Well, yes.
There are certain things. It's interesting how that has changed.
No, there's a George Carlin piece that he's done many times. The comedian George Carlin I think it's the 9 words you can't say on TV or something like that. That's plays on this idea. Obviously, he has to say them because he's talking about them.
Yeah.
I thought it was very funny. But it's a famous piece. He's done it lots of times, George Carlin. I don't think he's around anymore. But
there's I can tell you that even on the channel we're streaming on now on Twitch, nothing is unacceptable with regards to vulgarity.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing.
That's worth keeping in mind.
I know that I've listened to every word up to the C word, which is obviously what we perceive to be the worst one, being used quite fluidly on streams.
Yeah, with one of my sons, I used to try this experiment. Try and make something a swear word. So you pick a word, and then you're talking with someone. Let's say it's going to be Hovis. So say if you were to say Hovis, I go, we're in polite company. And you make it seem like it's a swear word, you see, and eventually try to get it accepted. We were trying to do it with the word Belgium because obviously Belgium is a disgusting place. Well, maybe.
I've got a friend from Belgium. You can't say that.
I've never been there, but in the radio series, book, TV series, and film, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
The word Belgium in most languages in the galaxy is a hideous swear word.
Fair enough.
And it says, the idea is apart from in the world on Earth, and then our hero thinks, well, no, actually, that's a sort of a joke about the Belgians. So, Belgium. So you try to use Belgium as a swear. It's got the good start. Belgium, but he hasn't got a very good end for a swear word.
So one thing that's just reminded me of is a friend many years ago who, when she finished school, she went and lived in Spain for a decade or something, and there was a car. I'm not sure if it was a Vauxhall. Was it Vauxhall Nova?
There was, yes. Oh yeah, I know. I can't remember what it meant. It meant something different.
So Nova in Spanish means, I believe, female's bits.
Does it? Yeah.
Yes. So it's like. Okay.
They were saying, what the Belgium does that mean?
Yeah. So, again, with the MR2, they had to call it the MR because they didn't want it to sound like Nav. Yeah, of course. I've just sworn in French now.
Yeah.
Did you see that accent? That was good.
Yeah, but I've been swearing by saying Belgian. I've been swearing in Alpha Centauri.
You have, haven't you? Right, come on then. Let's move up. What are we doing for time? We are 1:37. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. So
yeah. Well, let's just go until we finish. So just finish at a natural time.
Let's see what we do.
Yeah. Now, real life robots?
Yeah, that's the one.
Will make you think the future is now. Yes, that's fascinating, isn't it? This this is the next link we got. We had a few conversation starters that we could have done, but let's move.
Have we got a conversation bit that I've missed?
Yeah.
Well, we'll do it after this.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We have the links laid out, so let's do this. Now, these are just examples of robots. That one, I say the top left one, does look a bit scary as it's following her down the street.
I think that's got her possessions in it.
Ah, right. Okay.
I would guess that, and it just follows around. It's like a big glorified handbag.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I guess if you scroll up, there must be more, or down, whichever way around it is. There it is, yes. Pocketlint is the name of the site, by the way, in case you wonder why it says that. If you're anything like us, you probably can't wait for the day you can go to the store and easily and cheaply buy a robot to clean your house. Wait on you and do whatever you want. We know that day is a long way off, do you? But technology is getting better all the time. In fact, some high-tech companies have already developed some pretty impressive robots that make us feel like the future is here already. It's here already. These robots aren't super intelligent androids or anything, but hey, baby steps.
Absolutely.
We've rounded up real-life robots you can check out right now with the purpose of getting you excited for the robots of tomorrow. Here's one. Looks a bit like a teddy bear.
Robear. Mm-hmm. Robear is a high-tech teddy designed to lift an elderly patient, she doesn't look very old, from a bed into a wheelchair. Robear comes from...
Toshihiro Mukai.
You didn't even give me a chance to say it.
I thought I'd leap in there with my excellent Japanese accent.
Okay, look at that. A scientist who leads a robot sensor systems research team at the Riken SRK Collaboration Centre for Human Interactive Robot Research. Robear is a team's third robot bear.
Yes. It's very strong.
I've seen the Boston Dynamics stuff.
Yeah, so it's meant to behave like a dog, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of this, some of the Boston Dynamics stuff is, I think some of it's CGI.
Right.
I believe. I could be wrong.
Yeah, you don't think it's real.
No.
Well, let's scroll past them as we don't really trust them.
Henna
Hotel. A hotel in southwestern Japan called Weird Hotel is staffed almost totally by robots to save labour costs. hotel. I imagine they're quite expensive. The hotel is called Henna Hotel in Japanese and was shown to reporters complete with robot demonstrations. One feature demoed was the use of facial recognition instead of e-keys during check-in. An interesting view of the future. Yeah. What if you're wearing a mask, though? In these COVID times.
Does that say stripper bots?
It does. I thought I was going to leave you to read that one.
At the 2014 CeBIT Expo in Hanover, Germany, German software developer Tobit had a booth showcasing 2 pole dancing robots and a robot DJ with a megaphone for a head. The 2 bots could dance in time with the music.
Yeah, so there you are. Stripper. They don't seem to have stripped, though. It says stripper, but they're dance spots.
I think they're pretty much down to it, aren't they?
I mean, they don't.
I mean, that's an interesting setup for the chest plate.
Yes, I wonder why it's that shape. I don't understand it.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
What is housed in that particular?
Go on, let's have this. Ava Robotics. Ava Robotics designed a robot that allows workers to easily move around a remote location as if they were really there. I've seen something like this before. This robot combines high-definition video conferencing technology with robotic mobility, allowing remote workers to communicate easily with their colleagues too. Yeah, kind of interesting. My word.
This one I have seen. I have seen. I didn't see a video here. It actually has a conversation with you. This robot has appeared in several high-profile interviews, including an on the spot with Jimmy Fallon.
I think I might have seen that.
Is Jimmy Fallon a robot? That's interesting.
That's a good point.
Maybe.
Not
very convincing.
Sophia is also unusual in that she's been given official citizenship in Saudi Arabia and the United Nations title of Innovation Champion. Sophia is capable of answering a multitude of questions and is learning too. Is she the vision of the future?
Is she sort of the ideal woman for Saudi Arabia?
Asimo, I've seen Asimo.
Right, yeah.
Do you want to say this one?
Asimo is a humanoid robot that Honda has been developing for over a decade. It features hand dexterity as well as the ability to run fast, hop, jump, run backward, and climb and descend stairs. Asimo can also recognise the faces and voices of multiple people speaking and can accurately predict what you'll do next. Wow, that's amazing.
How interesting. Look at this little fellow.
He looks the best.
Robahon. Robahon is a smartphone disguised as a robot. This little robot works as a normal phone with a screen for a belly. Oh, that's quite cute, isn't it? But also does more. The bot can move and talk for call alerts and more. It even has a projector in its face, so it can lean forward and project larger images on surfaces. This could be useful for viewing photos, following a recipe, or simply as a novel hands-free option.
Good point, yeah. So there's some...
Let me see what I can find out.
Changes.
Can I find that one that was in the first image?
In the opening image.
Where was it?
Oh, yes, the, here it is,
There it
is, yes, the luggage. You said it was luggage, yes.
Geetabot. Carrying your own bags is such a chore with Geetabot. So Geetabot is like one of those old Deers trolleys, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah? We have one of them. We take it when we're away, when we go to the beach and stuff. We call it...
Oh, you have a trolley, not the old deer.
We call it Bertha. Bertha with the wheels.
Yeah.
That the old ladies used to do their shopping with.
Yeah.
So with Geetabot, worry no more. Oh, okay. This compact robot is designed to follow you around while you're out and about in town or on the way to work.
Yeah.
The bot is capable of carrying the equivalent of a case of wine, a loaded rucksack, or 2 shopping bags. So it's an ideal companion for the quick trip down to the shops.
It
In the
is.
future, you'll be able to leave the car at home and stretch your legs without the misery of carrying your shopping home. Providing you only want to get yourself a case of wine or 2 shopping bags for the shopping.
Well, it'd be ideal for, alcoholics, wouldn't it? Carry their wine with them. Yeah. Yeah, ideal.
What's that?
That's some
Cafe
great
X
thing.
is also a robot coffee
yeah,
bar.
Yeah. So there's quite a lot here. Yeah. Is that which one's this? A buddy, yes. A friend. Yeah. Yeah, that would be very happy having a robotic
Folder
friend.
mate.
Because-
Laundry is such a chore.
It is. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of good ideas here, but
Have you noticed
they're
how-
all quite similar though.
Have you noticed how quite a lot of these are kind of humanoid and look quite cute?
Yeah, I think that the human-looking thing is interesting. I think that people will inevitably gravitate towards that. I think we'll get more of them like that because people just love it, don't they?
Yeah, I think that the
More of an interaction.
I think the interesting point about that is to humanise them makes them more acceptable.
Yeah, yeah, but it also, in a way, makes them more threatening because this idea of my mate Ian,
Your mate Ian.
who thought they would be, they'd be our new overlords and he'd be happy. I don't know where that phrase, "the new overlords," come from. It's from some sort of science fiction movie, isn't it? The one I remember, there was a movie, well, it's a TV series and books I read years ago called The Tripods.
I remember
Very
the
s-
tripods.
very
they
similar
did
in
they did
look.
a TV series,
Yeah, there's very similar in look to the Lords of
City
the.
of Gold and Lead.
Very,
Rings a bell?
pardon, what?
The City of Gold and Lead.
Well, the characters, the evil overlord aliens, were similar in look to the War of the Worlds, weren't they?
Yeah.
But they were the new overlords, and many people would say, "Oh yes, we're very happy with our new overlords." I don't think it comes from there, but that sort of concept, you're happy with them because you have to be. And
I remember those books distinctly. Not that I read them. I think I tried to read them because I'm just not very good at reading. I remember they were going around school when I was at school.
yeah,
Really big.
very
style.
good, very good.
Yeah. Should we go to our quick fire?
We've got a quick fire questions, mostly about the future, but there's a mixture. So the idea is that we don't spend long on them, but we can, if we get go down a bit of a rabbit hole. So number one, how would you like to influence the future? In what way would you like to influence the future?
How would I like to influence the future?
So looking at your legacy, maybe. They say that old Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, in case people hadn't noticed, he's doing a lot of spending of America's money that it doesn't have. And people were saying, well, it's because he's getting on a bit. He may not have a second term. It's unlikely. So he's trying to get all his stuff done now so that he has a legacy, you see.
Hasn't he also just done some sort of military offensive?
Has he? Oh, right.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I believe he has.
Oh, right. Bit of news I was unaware of there. You see, that's big in the news.
Let me check.
Mind
that
you,
in
the
case I'm
military can be
misquoting.
offensive, can't they? So, depends, yeah.
Let's go home.
I mean, what the Belgium does he think he's doing, sending people abroad like that to fight with people? I hadn't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me. There seems to be lots of tensions across the world, doesn't there? It seems to be very tense.
Let me just check.
And I
it out.
don't just mean past, present, and
I'm going to
future.
go to our favourite,
All pluperfect.
the BBC News.
Yeah, we're big fans of the BBC News.
So,
Yeah,
and the other thing is Israel.
Israel, yes.
Netanyahu.
Yeah, he's out, isn't he? Or he's
Yeah, that's whoa, interesting stuff. If people haven't looked at that, check out the news. Let me see if I can look up the Americas.
Yeah, so yes, as I say, Biden trying to get whether or not he's whatever he's doing with the military. Yeah, I think he seems to have had, and you know more so than most presidents early on, have an eye on his legacy because he said even before he was president he was looking at being a one-term president, and that's partly to assuage people's problems with the fact that he's 78, saying he's getting on a bit. Because he's older than the previous president, and the previous oldest president was Reagan, and he wasn't even 70 when he got in, was he? He was in his 70s for his second election.
There's a comment in chat
Yeah,
that I seem to have missed.
go ahead.
Not sure about the infections, which I think is meant as insects. But
Yes.
the bear and dog look cute. Wouldn't the shopping not be easy to steal?
Oh, well, maybe it would only open to your voice.
Yeah, maybe.
I suppose you could just pick it up and run off with it.
Yeah, maybe it could be armed.
It should have
An
a gun
AK-47 strapped to the top,
there. Yeah.
just to protect your
Shoot.
wine.
Shoot anyone who comes within a certain radius. Yeah, just
Yeah.
shoot them dead. It's best not to ask questions because you don't know.
It's interesting, isn't it? When you start thinking about things, you think that's really interesting. Wouldn't someone nick it? Isn't that like a really interesting train of thought Revo's had there?
Yeah.
Would someone just nick it?
Why would you immediately think of that? Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Did you find any news about military?
I haven't, but I've just seen Biden expands US investment ban on Chinese firms. But look, I can't find it. I'm not spending time on it. Right, let's go back to your
okay.
question. Your question, sorry.
Oh, sorry, yes.
How would you like
okay,
to influence
quick fire
the
questions.
future?
How would you like to influence the future? You can't just see for the better. I mean, maybe you think not at all. Maybe you think, no, that's not something you consider. Because for many people, that is true. For some people,
it's too big a question in my mind.
I mean, for many people, it's well. I just want my children to be happy. That would be one thing that they would do. Maybe leave their house to their children, that sort of thing.
Is that influencing the future, or is that just influencing your kids' future?
Well, yeah, it's the future, isn't it?
Well, that's just parenting, isn't it?
I suppose so. I mean, I haven't considered that myself.
I think the lead of the question is, how would you like to do something that has a positive impact on the world in the future?
Well, if you want to take it like that, yes.
Well, that's how I read it. And
Okay,
I think,
go
I could talk to the cows come home about that, and I'm not gonna. So it's a difficult question, but it leads.
But I think that
it kind of leads to the conceptual idea of all goodwill to all men, and everyone gets on and that sort of stuff. So.
But yes, thinking about it, though, our work here, like this sort of show, although it does last, it's not like saying writing a book, which once things are in print, it lasts forever. So, well,
just stick it on Facebook. It lasts forever.
I guess so. It's interesting.
Once it's out there.
It's interesting that the new, some of the new video hosting sites like Library and Odyssey, they use this blockchain technology, which means that your video, it really is, permanently there. You can never delete it. So you've got to be sure what you say you're happy with, because you're never going to be able to get rid of it. But yeah, I suppose once things are out there, it's a similar sort of idea. Once you get diversified,
it's like data. It's almost like too much of it.
Yeah.
We're so drowned in it now that and we're so desensitized to most things as well that it just lines. Yeah. It's almost like the concept of today's newspapers will only line tomorrow's waste paper baskets.
So my answer to the question is similar to what you were sort of getting at. I don't think of life in those terms of trying to influence the future. I want to do what's right now and enjoy myself now as well within limits.
Yeah.
But and create something now and be a creative now, do that sort of thing. But as to influencing the future, it doesn't really bother me, to be honest. So let the people in the future get on with that. That's how I would think about it.
Well, I suppose we always say this quickfire, and they never are quickfire. I suppose the things that are negative and bad in the world today, and I mean the accurate things that are negative and bad, not the perceived negative and bad and all that sort of stuff, is potentially have some sort of influence on rectifying those.
Yes,
that would be the only thing I think I could say, rather than say I'll leave it to the future.
You having said that, I'm taking it back, because I would like to have, through our shows and things we do, some sort of change in the culture. Take the negative aspects that I see as coming in, the real atomization, divisions between different groups that has grown up. Do something to bring those down.
Well, isn't that some form of saving the world?
Well, that's what we do,
That's what we try. Let's have a look at the next one.
Okay, how would you switch gears completely? How would you commit the perfect crime?
Probably quite badly.
No, it's difficult because you have to define the crime.
I'll have to watch Sneakers. It's a good film.
Yes.
Look at that. Sneakers and what was the other one? The Usual Suspects.
Now, the Agatha Christie novels with Hercule Poirot, he commits the perfect crime. He said that the problem is that he recognised that he as a murderer was so brilliant that he would never be found out, and he, in the end, it's called His Final Curtain, or The Final Curtain, or something like that. Which was written, I think, quite early on, as she got fed up with him, and was held from being published, and then was published as the last novel. But he finds someone that he knows has committed a murder. The great detective Hercule Poirot, with his little grey cells, he realizes. Now he was Belgium. Oops, sorry. He finds out who has committed a particular murder. He knows that he's done it, but he can't prove it to other people, so he kills him. But because of his sense of justice, even though no one will ever find out, he believes that all murderers deserve death. so he kills himself.
Nice.
Anyway, that's a good way of doing but it isn't the perfect crime. It doesn't have to be murder. I think the only way to commit the perfect crime is like in that. Well, this isn't the only way. A way that I would see of doing it. There's a Hitchcock movie. I'm trying to remember the name of it. The character is called Bruno. Let me tell you the plot in it, which is the start of the movie. So I'm not giving away the end. But the start of the movie is this: a man meets someone else on a train.
Yeah.
He wants to kill his wife.
I think. Hang on. Let me look it up. I know what you're on about.
Well, he wants to kill his wife. I'll just carry on with it while you see if you can look at the movie. He wants to kill his wife. He meets someone on a train. He says, "Well, look, will you kill my wife?" Because, and I think that it may be that they're going to kill each other's wives. I can't remember the exact plot. It's something like that.
I know what it is. Do you want me to?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Across?
Yeah, you put the. What is the name of it? Strangers on a Train. There you are. Is it Hitchcock? Yes, it is Hitchcock. Yeah, I believe this is the plot. Right. So this chap get talking, and they say, "Yeah, I'm happy with my wife. I'm unhappy with this is a big problem." And they say, "Well, why don't we kill each other's wives? There's no reason. No one knows we met on this train.
Yeah.
So there's no motive for us to do it. We're from different areas. You just tell me." And they have this discussion, and then and it really was terrible for him. There's something bad about his wife, our hero, and one day she dies because this guy he'd met on the train has killed him. But it turns out he was just having a conversation. He didn't think it would really happen. So he thinks. Once he realises that she has been murdered by that, he's horrified. But the man is saying to him, "Now you've got to kill my wife," and that's the setup to the story, because he's very angry that he hasn't killed his wife. So that's
another one. I think I might have to.
But my thinking is, if you could have that sort of person, a stranger who no one knows is in any way connected to you, doing it for you, and no one knows the connection, then you could get away with it. So that's my whatever you do. Of course, I'm not thinking of murder. I wouldn't do that. And in fact, I'd never break the law. But if I needed to, that's the way I would do it.
Okay.
And you'd never know.
Okay.
You never know.
Right,
next one. Does the expression "the good old days" mean that the future will probably be worse? Because you say the good old days. There was a TV show called The Good Old Days.
Was it?
Yeah, it was famous at the time, 80s, 70s, 80s, I think. And it was going back to the time of music hall.
The good old days.
So you had people doing music hall acts, and you had a man introducing, "And now the greatest act you've ever seen," and introducing it the old-fashioned.
I've got it there. So you just clipped everywhere. That was all.
Yeah, I thought I would. Yeah. Anyway, he used to shout it. Yeah. But yeah, The Good Old Days was the idea that it was better. British TV series. What age? What? It went for 30. Oh, look, it was a lot earlier than I thought. It was in 53. Because the
What do you say?
musical.
1980s.
I thought it went on to the 80s. It said
Yeah,
30 years.
final episode, 31st December 1983.
Yeah,
Started in 53.
Yeah.
I never heard of it.
So it's harking back to the musical, which is of course 19th century into early 20th century. The musical.
Oh.
And the old comedians, the great comedians of old, grew up in the musical, like Morecambe and Wise, for example. Musical, and of course the seaside resorts.
Okay, so my answer to that: does the expression "the good old days" mean that the future will probably be worse? It depends. It depends if we remember the good old days and take anything in the form of tradition with us.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, the future is about not ditching the past because it's part of what we are.
Yeah.
It's about refining, and it's about remembering, and I don't know, maybe in the same vein of remembering the bad things of our past, in the vain attempt of trying not to repeat them.
Yes.
Of course, provided that no one says we can't talk about that anymore because it might upset someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We're looking at you, YouTube.
I wasn't talking. I wasn't talking about it because I was jollifying it. I was talking about it because it's actually an important part of our past.
Yeah.
And it's important to recognise our future.
Yeah.
So, but bringing some of the stuff, It reminds me of something, and I might have said this on a previous episode. I can't remember. I think it was along the lines of, these kids don't know they've been born.
Yes.
Yeah. Which probably dates back to 1603. It's one of those things that people still use now as a phrase.
Or 1703, where St. Petersburg was.
Yeah,
was founded.
yeah, absolutely.
No,
Last week, then, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was last week. What was I going to say? Oh yes, I think it's true that the future will be worse when we get there, even though it's better. It'll be better, but we always think the past was the good old days. So it will actually be better.
Well, that's what.
But people will say it
But
isn't.
the interesting thing, yeah, of course it will, because of course that's what memories are all about.
Yeah.
Memories about looking back. Next door's doggo's out, I think. I don't know if you can hear that. Memories are all about looking back fondly at things in the past.
Yes. Okay. Next question.
Go on.
This is really quickly then, because
Yeah, go on.
I hadn't realised what we would say when I put this one down. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future?
Both.
Both. Good. Right. Me too. Would you like to live? This is another timing one. Would you like to live 100 years in the future, or 100 years in the past?
Future.
Why? It says why in my question here.
It says why for the optimistic, pessimistic, and you didn't ask me why.
No,
for
I
that.
couldn't be bothered with that.
Oh, okay. Why? Because I think that medically and all of those things, I'm more likely to die if I was 100 years in the past through
True,
whatever.
yeah.
So I think I probably have, yeah. Would I
100
like
years
to
in-
experience the past? There's a really good film. What was it called? Oh, dear. It's when a group of scientists go back to a place in France
Oh,
several
I don't
hundred
recognise
years
this.
previous.
Ah.
And
That's a fascinating concept. I liked
what was it
I
called?
like the show, the thriller Deja Vu, where you can go and they realise they can actually go into the
What was
past.
the film
So
called?
interesting concept.
Time
But in
travel.
that case, there was a limited time window, it was something like 48 hours. It was only a short time in the past. But it was a crime thriller. I don't know this one. A place in France. Years ago,
I'm trying to think what it was called.
years ago, I attempted to write a story about travelling to the past.
Did you?
And I found I've written it. I could never get it. I was going to try. I mean, I even went to try and get it published. And at that point, I changed job and moved which country I was living in. So it never quite happened. As to it may never have been published at all. I quite liked it.
Got it.
Story. Yeah,
Found it.
I'll tell you. Tell me what the film is, and I'll tell you just in a few sentences what my story was.
Do you want me to switch it?
Yeah, go on, show me. Because I might want to see this. Timeline. I've never heard of this. A group of archaeologists become trapped in the past when they go there to retrieve a friend. The group must survive in 14th century France before they can escape back to the 21st century. Well, that sounds a great film. That sounds like my sort of film. And it's a Michael Crichton film.
It didn't get a massive. I enjoyed watching it. Yeah, I won't go into it, but yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah,
So
okay.
go on, carry on with your story.
Anyway,
So
no,
you've written a story, have you?
What I did was I wrote a short story, and I said I thought, I'd like to make this a full-length story. So I sent an outline to a few publishers, and one of them got back to me and said, "Yeah, that's very interesting." And then I went and moved, I moved country. So I could have got a mainstream publisher, maybe. We haven't even started to talk about it, to publish it. But these days, I don't need that, and I'd probably actually sell some. I could just put it out on Kindle or something.
Yeah.
If you get a publisher to publish it and you're unknown, it doesn't mean anyone will buy it. I wasn't likely to have got any money from it because I was so unknown. But I just wanted to get it published, and then I just forgot about it.
Well,
anyway, here's the story.
Go on.
Go tell me the story. Right, it's a time travel story, and it was called something like, and I think this was a mistake. The name was a mistake. I think it was called The Second Day. And I don't know why I decided to call it that, because it didn't tell you what the story was about particularly. But anyway, this is the story. Our hero is he works at university in a research department. It's actually Aston University in Birmingham, because I was there briefly doing as an undergraduate.
With Ian.
Right, so he's working in this, and he's working on a time travel machine. This is very well known, and this was set in the future.
Yeah.
In the future. And in the future, the Muslims and the Christians had joined together the fundamentalist Muslims and Christians joined together in believing that the Earth was only about 6,000 years old. Believing literally the creation stories in the Bible, because the Quran, of course, accepts the Christian Bible. They just think it's been corrupted over years. So they all believe that. So they divide together against these evil people with their time machine. So I interact in my story. I was going between news reports of the riots happening around Aston University in Birmingham, and the researchers down working on the time machine, was to go back in time to an early point of the Earth's formation. Now, in order to do this, they had a spaceship, because as I mentioned earlier in another episode, if you go back in time, and we don't know what would happen, say if you went back in time 6 months, the Earth would be the other way around the sun, other side of the sun. This was my concept at the time. So the idea was you went back in time, and then to be you were near the Earth, then you went down through the atmosphere into it. This was important because it was as it was being formed, it would still be all hot, etc. Right? So you didn't want to be actually on the ground, and you didn't want to materialize in the middle of something. So they planned to go back in time. They were doing all the calculations, but there was this rioting above ground. Now it so happens that Aston University does have like a big bunker underneath, like against a war. There was a big bunker underground, and there's air vents around it in what was called the Aston Triangle in Birmingham. It's probably still there. So they could have had this sort of facility underground. Now you could, of course, if you go back in time, you don't need to go out in space. You just go back in time, and the Earth's not there anymore. So, fine, it's all ready to go. Our hero is he's the pilot, and there's 2 other people. There's a main research scientist, and there's someone else who's like the sort of action figure, expert in combat, and sort of, who was a young woman. So there's 3 people on this ship that had, I think she was called Pippa. Yes, there was Richard, Pippa, and the hero, a name I can't remember. Anyway, 3 people.
Gerald.
We'll say Gerald. I can't remember his name. So he's going back in time. Now, they decide to go. They're going to go ahead with this. They get ready to. They go ahead. They go back in time, and they have everyone there, all the press there. Meanwhile, outside there's riots. There's people trying to get in, and they're setting off explosions. Someone has come in, and just at the time, he says that he's a priest and he's going to pray a prayer of blessing over it. And they organise this because of the religious controversy. So they had this combined Muslim Christian holy man who's going to say this prayer over it. And he comes in, but he's not. He's not that holy. He's got a bomb.
Yeah.
What they do?
I know this film.
They go back in time. The bomb goes off there, but they've actually gone back in time, and they succeed in travelling back in time. This is all the setup, by the way. So they go back in time. They don't know what's happening with the explosion in their laboratory because they've gone. He's too late to stop them. They go back in time. They've exploded the university. Lots of people have died. That bit of all this big controversy causes hatred, and it's terrible. But they go back in time in their spaceship / time machine. They go back in time and they're hurtling backwards, and suddenly, bang! They hit something, and they bounce slightly forward in time. And they look around and they look at what's happening. And what they found is the whole universe is only 6,000 years old. That's the start of the story.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then they're on the second day of creation, and then the story unfolds. So what do you think, folks?
Yeah.
Good story?
Mate, write it. Right, get it published. In fact, let's make
The
a movie.
second day.
Let's make a movie. We'll have lots of explosions in it.
I've got my notes from it. It's not quite fully written, but I could read.
Right, interestingly enough, that isn't too dissimilar to the start of what you're talking about.
Oh right, okay. I've not seen that.
And there's also a movie which is what's her name?
I like this was, when I wrote this years ago, I had the Muslims and the Christians joining together, which I thought was hilarious.
Hilarious. I think it's great. It would be good if it did.
We should all be together.
Absolutely.
Everyone
what's her
except
name?
these
Jodie
flipping,
Foster.
except for these flipping time travelers. They're causing a lot of trouble. Apart from them.
What's it called? Contact.
Okay.
Contact.
I haven't seen that film. I have heard of that film.
Contact. And let's move that across.
Yep.
Yeah, just I'm after the image really. So yeah, there's a bloke in that who appears as a spiritual guy, and he's got a bomb.
Oh right. Okay.
Right.
Well,
So what was that?
well, that was
Let's just before we go.
that was going into the past. That was
Okay. So Revo said, it would be it would hard.
Be hard.
It would be hard to go back in time, knowing the future. Going forwards in time would be more exciting.
I see what you mean. When you're back in time, you know what the future's going to be, and it depends.
You know, if you go back in time,
Can you change the future?
yeah, you could have an impact
Or
on
can't
the
you?
future. Right.
Well,
But you're talking,
we don't know.
You're talking about a certain reality. But I think the thing about going back in time is that you can experience things in those time
Yeah, but
frames,
that you've
time
heard about.
zones or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
The question is
you
whether
you could be strategically placed near the grassy knoll or the
Yeah.
book repository.
The thing is,
and you could get a view of what happened.
a lot of time travel movies involve people going back in time, but the future is fixed. Therefore, whatever they do, they end up being part of the history as we know it.
Yeah,
Of course, in the classic movie Back to the Future,
Oh, that's interesting.
you can
That's
change the
really-
future
Yeah.
and then go back to it. Hence the title.
Yes.
And he has to go back and change the past.
Okay, go on. Let's move to the next one.
Yes. Oh, yes. Let's move. We spent a lot of time on that one. Quickly, next one. This is, of course, follows directly on. What do you think of tattoos? Do you have any?
They're all right, and yes.
Oh, right.
Have you?
I don't have any tattoos, and
What do you think of them?
now I don't have any. Some people, for religious reasons, disapprove of them or think that you shouldn't have them. That's not my position. I just think that they look silly.
Do you?
I have yet to see one that doesn't look like someone's drawn on you with a ballpoint pen.
Really? Okay, next one.
I don't like them.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
they
you're
look
out of
ridiculous.
touch and completely. Yeah.
No, on this I'm correct.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right,
yeah.
hang on. Right.
Yeah. Take a vote, anyone. Tattoos look silly. Come on, let's be honest. Apart from the Edinburgh tattoo, but that's a musical event.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, tattoos never look good, and also they're I suppose not quite permanent. They can be removed these days, but they don't look as good on wrinkly skin. That's all I'm saying. So I wouldn't do it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've got some tattoos here, but
Are you not going to show us your tattoos then? I thought it's an
No,
ideal opportunity. Yeah. But okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. And what was your motivation for having that tattoo? Why did you?
don't know.
Oh, okay.
I just fancied it. So let's have a look at that. That looks very artistic. Let's see if I can click on it.
I don't have any ones. Says small ones are okay. Hang on, is that yeah? Some people are covered in them, which never looks. Yeah, The ones where they have a full sleeve or whatever. I think they do look They look silly to me.
So that's a very nice piece of artwork. I don't think that's like someone's just been drawn on. Whether your perception of that is a nice piece of art is subjective.
Yeah. No,
So I think that there are some
they never look that good.
incredibly good pieces of art out there, and if people want to put that art on their bodies, then fine. That's
but they can do it. I just don't. What do I think of them? I think they look silly. That's my personal.
Well, I think some do for sure, and I think some of them are incredible.
Okay, it's of course. As I said, I don't have. Some people do disapprove of them. That isn't my position. I just don't like the look of them.
I don't
However good they are,
I don't
they still look
understand.
like-
Yeah, but again, I don't understand how people disapprove of them. I think what's an interesting point is there is a judgmental view on people with tattoos,
There is, yeah.
which is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a similar thing would be that I would never do is say have pierced ears for earrings.
Pierced ears for earrings.
Yeah, or other sort of
Not trifles.
face jewelry. You know, people have a stud through here or whatever. I think that look. I don't think earrings look particularly silly. I wouldn't have the piercing,
But you don't fancy a nose ring,
a
then?
nose
Or
ring
an eyebrow.
or stud through here, or through the tongue or something. I think that, in my particular taste, I think it looks silly, and that's why I haven't had it done.
Yeah, but each their own, eh?
Well, in terms of the appearance on your face, of course, you're still going to have holes there. Say when you're trying to get a job or something, and it might put people off. So it depends what your career progression is.
Absolutely.
Say you're a rock star or something, it might be in your favour.
Or a tattoo artist.
But tattoos, generally, yes, I just think.
But
I think they
you're
look
right.
silly.
And actually, I mean, at least a conversation where people had spiders' webs put on their face and the impact
Yeah.
it's had on their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they
I
have
saw
have idiot written across their forehead.
Yeah, I'm not sure that happens often, but I think.
Well, not the word
that,
idiot. I was toning it down for
Really?
public, because I'm very good like that. Yeah, there was. I mean, I've seen news reports. They put it. And, when he was drunk, this happened, and he had
Yeah.
something,
But
something untoward. written or
interesting.
drawn
I saw
on his
I saw someone where they had a partner who was covered in tattoos in his face, and they did a make under on him. So they put makeup on him to make him look like he didn't have any tattoos, to see what he looked like. That was quite an interesting thing.
Yes,
But he loved his
yeah,
tattoos.
that's it.
Go on, let's move on. To the
Okay,
next
move
one.
on. Yes. Well, that was all our quick fire ones, but I've got another one here. In the decade when you were a teenager, so think back to when that was.
What things did we all do better in the decade
Yeah.
when you were a teenager? What did we do worse?
Now, you see, I was a teenager in the 80s. And in my opinion, again, my humble opinion, other views, of course, fine, although they're of course, wrong. I believe that the music was terrible. Now, of course, I'm not a great fan of music, or pop music in general, but it seems to me that the
Are
music...
you doing that thing again where you're voicing based on the fact that you're not an authority on something?
Yeah, of course I'm not an authority, it's my opinion.
Yeah.
But I did live through the decade of the 80s, and I would say the music, the pop music I'm talking about specifically, of the 60s and the 70s was more enduring.
More enduring.
Yeah, and good, just better.
Well, okay.
Because the music today, so I'd say the music of the 80s, because it was so influenced by synthesizers and all this sort of thing, and the start, well, there's probably lots of influences as to why. The 60s and 70s, pop music was just coming into full growth there, and it was explosion of creativity. So you got the Beatles from the 70s, you got 60s and up to 70, wasn't it? Yeah. So you got so many different groups, bands, individuals who were then to become household names from that time. And all those so I think the 80s music was terrible.
Do you know, the thing is that I can't answer that question. I'm really struggling to think about what did we do better in the decade when I was a teenager. So I was a teenager in the 90s.
Yeah.
What did we do worse? I don't know, because I think it's all the same. It is all kind of the same. If you take the material element out of it, music is music, all right?
Yeah.
And some people will swear that the 80s was the best decade. Some people swear that the 70s was...
Yeah, I hadn't finished what I was going to say there.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, there was one more thing, although it was worse than the 60s and 70s, because now everything seems... now the quality, it seems, of the music production is so much better. The quality is better, and I think people have got used to things like synthesizers, whatever. So that sort of music, I think it's better now than it was in the 80s. Although I think the 60s and 70s was like a golden era for pop music.
Right, that's debatable as well, I suppose. Interesting. Well, and you're talking production value here.
Yeah,
But, yeah, fair enough. I'm just sort of saying that have you finished?
Yeah, now
Yeah.
I'm finished.
So
Yeah.
I'm just sort of thinking, in a material sense, we could cook food faster with microwaves because microwaves were invented. Is that better quality food? No, it's not. It's all right to reheat something, perhaps, but would you cook anything in it, really? I don't know. It's not my favourite item in the
People
kitchen.
say you can, but I've never managed it. So,
Well, not well, anyway. But yeah, it's like music is music. So again, it's a subjective thing. So there's elements of all decades of music that I really enjoy. And actually, as I've gotten older, I've started to prefer really old music. So I've started listening to more orchestral stuff and more symphony stuff. Certainly since the start of the pandemic, having listened to a lot of Radio 3.
There
So,
you go.
and I never did that before. And also, I, a couple of years ago, went to Berlin and did, Elaine and I went to Berlin and went to the opera. That was the first time I've been to the opera.
Right.
So I think it's...
Did you like it?
I loved it, absolutely.
I've never been to an opera. So.
Absolutely loved it. I went to Tosca. And it was a great experience. And I was hoping, because I kind of do think that I'm a bit of a moron sometimes when it comes to things like art and a bit of heathen. Is it heathen the right thing, or I can't remember the phrase.
What did they call it? Philistine? That's what they usually use. Yeah.
I don't know what the phrase is, but uncultured perhaps. And I think that when I think of things, what things did we all do better in a decade? I don't know. Were we nicer to one another? I don't think so. Were we worse than
So what? You're harking back to the 90s, aren't you?
Well, it doesn't make any difference, I don't think. I mean, I was born 72, so I remember elements of all three decades, 70s, 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
The 80s was the most profound, I think, for me. 90s, I was just working, was that a good thing?
Well, here's one thing that I've noticed. Maybe I don't know if it's right or not, but my impression is that in the 70s and into the 80s, there seemed to be like a fashion of what everyone wore, and it was music people listened to. When there was punk in the late 70s, and then there were in my school there were a group of skinheads. They would have wear the same. There'd be a whole group the same. Yeah. They'd have APL on the back, which rather nasty racist element. What they're doing. They were anti-Packy League, so very unpleasant. But
actually, that's a very interesting point.
And that was out in the open. That's the point
no, you're right. I think that is an interesting point that you've brought up, and it's made me think of football as well. When you talk about the violence
racism
on
football,
racism, the violence on terrorists, terraces.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think it's an interesting point you just made. It's made me think. That's what we've done a lot better.
I think that combating racism has been the big move over the.
Absolutely.
In the time between I was a teenager and now, we do that better now. I think
100%. I think that was one of the things for sure. I think there's a load of things now that you've come to mention that. I think I would like to believe that people are men, for example. I remember the phrase "a '90s man." The 90s guy was the guy who was like changing nappies and supportive of his wife.
Oh, right. I'd not heard that, but yeah.
And
there was a change.
A bit change culturally as a men's involvement in the home.
Yeah, I think
That's changed.
I think it's interesting how people that now look back to this. I think it's usually quoted the 70s as when sexism was rife, and I think that's true. I think if you go back far enough, when you look back at previous ways of living, it's not that men were necessarily sexist. It was just the whole of culture was different.
Yeah.
And so women had their role, men had their role, and it was very different. But now in an industrial and now so post-industrial society, there were the gender roles have changed, and so in treating women as though they were still in the cultural position that they were in the 19th century now is wrong. But we were doing it in the 70s. So that's why I think it grew up. I think it was a hangover to previous times, of a long time before agricultural society.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go down the route too much on that, but I mean, it's an interesting conversation. There's a lot of debate about, and it's still going on now about the conversations about what women wear and all these sort of things. And,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
I think yes.
none of it's anyone's
Yeah,
fault. It's always men and all this sort
I
of
guess
stuff. Which
yeah.
leads to again to another negative thing. It's kind of gone from what was bad to an improvement in to like an element of, and I'm not talking about sexism and stuff. I actually think it's partly to do with people just not knowing how they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is this is that kind of negative thing. I think there's been a massive push in the right direction of how we all interact with one another, for sure. With regards to racism, with regards to sexism, with regards to supportive to disabled people.
Yes, I was going to mention that. That is a very yes.
Do I
change.
say that any one of those things I've just mentioned is perfect? Absolutely not. Of course, it's not. Will it ever be perfect? Probably not. Yeah, but is it better than it was, 40 years ago? 100%. So that's what I'd say with regards to what you're talking about. They're the things that we do better.
Things we do better. Yeah, I mean the other thing I was going to say was just now maybe you don't see that, but what I saw was at the time in the 70s and 80s, there were different groups of people, like there were the skinheads and the punks, but there was a few different groupings, but generally there was a fashion or something that all the young people wore, because we're talking about being teenagers, that they wore. But now there seems to be quite a range of different, the whole range, a panoply of different things and types.
I don't know, because I'm so not in touch with teenagers in any way, shape, or form.
I have
really.
teenage children, so
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I my youngest stepdaughter's 21, so I have some sort of inkling.
My teenage children ignore fashion completely and just wear what's comfortable in terms of clothing.
Yeah. But I suppose that's one thing. Actually, one of the things I was thinking about, having talked about Hitchcock,
yes,
was I remember watching The Birds.
Yep.
And the opening scene to The Birds, and everybody is dressed immaculately. Now everybody is dressed really badly, with their jeans underneath the backs of their the legs of their jeans, all scuffed from their shoes, and all that sort of stuff.
Standards.
Standards in dress. People no longer look as smart as they used to.
I agree.
Apart from probably, and this is a revert back to the Italians who can't make cars, but they sure know how to dress.
Yes. They can't make cars, but they look cool.
They look cool.
I mean,
they know how to dress.
Cool, yes. I think that I think that when they there's a trend these days to have old films renovated and sometimes colorized.
Yeah.
So and played at the right speed so it looks real.
Yeah.
And you see people walking around and they just look so much better than we do today.
Yeah.
They wear their suit, the tie, and they're groomed. It's not just the
much
suit.
Better. So that thing's gone downhill. But I think the way that we talk to one another has certainly improved.
Yes.
Shall we move on? Have we got
we've got one final thing, because of course we've been so brilliant, obviously, throughout this show. Maybe we should look for another job as a futurist. We could be futurists, and I got in here Job Monkey, which is a site that helps you look for a job. Cool and unique jobs, futurist jobs. Now we should get a job doing this, and anyone watching, maybe you should consider this.
Tell me what a futurist is.
Well, it's impossible to see into the future, but it's not impossible to forecast what will happen. Think back to your past. How was the world different? Could you have forecasted any of the changes that now affect your life on a daily basis? That's what a futurist does. That's what we've been doing, Al. That's what we should do this. Futurists are social scientists that forecast what may happen in the future. It sounds like a job out of a science fiction movie, but it's very real. Futurists study the future so that they can advise businesses and individuals about potential scenarios, trends, and opportunities. The goal is to set companies up for success by preparing for the changes that could be coming. There are many skeptics when it comes to future studies, but it is an important job. Consider how the world will change when drones, driverless cars, space travel, robots, automated homes, 3D printing and other technologies become mainstream.
See, that's one thing I did think about earlier, is 3D printing. That is phenomenal.
How will the world prepare for global cooling, nuclear war, increased poverty, or virus outbreaks? If we aren't ready for these things, the future will be interesting. Good point. We could predict. Well, we've been doing some predictions of the future. We're already futurists, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do we build?
Well, that's it. I don't. That is the problem. But the thing is, in the future, we won't need money. Well, the end of the first. Well, there's a similar thing at the end of each of them, but the end of the first Back to the Future film, he has that line. No, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, of course, who hasn't seen it. But the line's just funny, where he says, he's asked, "Where are you going?" And he said, "Go to the future." Well, but how are you going to get there? Because, he said, you're going to miss the road with the way you're driving. He says, "Where we're going, we don't need roads." And he flies off. So
Absolutely.
I think that's, in the future, we don't need money.
Yeah, I just want to know to invoice for all this stuff.
Yeah, well, we have to be paid in Bitcoin. No, that's the type of money, isn't it? We paid in. Perhaps bartering will come back if my vision of the future is right, and we go back to an agrarian economy.
There's a big drop in Bitcoin this week.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did you lose out?
I haven't got any.
Oh, neither have I.
Yeah, apparently something to do with China and Bitcoin, and 25% of it dropped off the whatever its value.
Yeah, but thankfully we've saved the world already. So for everyone watching,
But
yes, this is what we do every week. We just
Economy's an interesting conversation I know not a lot about. How's your understanding of money?
well, it's also not my big area of expertise. As far as my understanding of how economies are run and how it might be better to run them, I follow people. It's what's called the Austrian school, which is pretty pure free trade. I think one of the beauties of free trade is that it makes it's almost like magic. And if you didn't see it happen, it makes everyone richer. I think Britain made a mistake during its empire days of trying to centralise everything and bring everything back to Britain, have most of the manufacturing in Britain. I think they should instead have given more autonomy, had free, basically free satellites around the world. A bit like they ended up being when they had to fight for their freedom, but or in some cases, many cases, were given it by Britain. But before that stage had happened, it should have been free trade going on with all the countries, and everyone becomes richer. That's my
And
take
on that
on it.
note,
That's my take on it. Free trade, capitalism is the way, baby.
okay, well, look, we've overshot by half an hour, which is fine.
We weren't to know. How can we tell the future?
Yes, no extra salad and pasta Pete next week. Other things happening.
Sadly not.
So, week after,
2
we'll
weeks'
be
time.
back. Wanted to just pose a question to you, if I may, Pete.
Yes,
How do you fancy the idea of having a guest?
we should have a guest. Of course, it depends who it is. Oh, it's
Yeah.
going to be a high quality guest. Yeah. Have you got
High
someone in
quality
mind?
guest. Well, no, I just thought that, this screen that we have here,
It's ideal for a
I
guest.
can I can bring in a guest.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
And I think we
yeah.
should perhaps have a guest that we can bring in and talk about such matters.
Yes, we could bring in a guest. We could even have a special show with just an interview, or we could bring in a few of our pals,
Yeah, absolutely.
just to shoot the breeze with us.
Yeah. Well, you can bring in all your pals. Sure, we'll get both of them in if you like.
Yes. I think you exaggerate.
Hey, all right. Okay, look, let's thanks, chat. No, it's a quiet one this week, and that's
That's
cool.
okay.
We'll see who watches this in catch up if anyone, and that's fine. We'll keep plugging away. Put any comments, whatever. I'll get alerted to them if we get anything. And I think we'll just run our intro, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, Belgium.